We just can't vote on anything, but they can give us all the information. Yep. Says 7 right at the top. And we could have got out of here early. So she had me here last night.
Good evening, everybody. This is the meeting of the Board of Selectmen and the Finance Committee joint meeting on the audit and management letter. Finance Committee will not be opening their part of the meeting at this point.
Mr. Peacock, I think if you come up, I know we're missing a few members, but we might as well get going if you don't mind, if you're ready. All right, thank you. And any one of those spots.
Take a roll call before we start.
Okay, all 5 selectmen and town administrator Derek Sullivan, and now I see town council Richard Bowen walking in. Present.
Thank you. Do we want to go ahead and start with questions from the board, or do you want Mr. Peacock to basically give us a presentation first?
I would ask that Mr. Peacock introduce himself to everyone, including the general public, and then just give an idea of the audit itself, and go through. I think some of you have some of the pertinent points of it to go over, and see where we land.
Thank you. It's all yours.
For the record, my name is Craig Peacock, a partner with the firm Powers and Sullivan. We're here tonight to talk about the fiscal 13 audit reports. What I thought I would do was take a little bit of a different approach, as opposed to just giving lots of facts and figures of what we did, more so give an overview of what we've seen over the last couple of years, how we think fiscal 13 ended, and where we see fiscal 14 going. We currently have a team in now working, getting the fiscal 14 audit started. So we have a good feel for things that have been completed and where we're headed for fiscal 14. Again, the audit encompasses 3 reports. There's the basic financial statements, the management letter, and the report on expenditures of federal award programs. If I could, I'll start with the federal award program because that's the easiest of the 3, if you will. The town spent about $4.4 million worth of federal grants for fiscal 13. We had to audit about 55.5% of those because of the compliance requirements by the federal government. And I'm happy to report that there are no findings in the report, and there were 2 findings last year on some education grants that were both resolved during fiscal 13. So the only real difference that we'll see in this report on federal awards, as well as the basic financial statement when we get there, is that in years past, you're used to seeing what we refer to as an unqualified opinion. GASB 63 came into play now. In the opinion, they're trying to get the international auditing standards and the United States auditing standards more in line with each other, and they're bringing the vocabulary more in line. There is no longer an unqualified opinion. The best the town can get is an unmodified opinion, which is what you have both on the federal report and the financial statements. So really, in a nutshell, that's the federal report. There's not much there. We audited 55%, no question costs, no compliance findings. Everything we needed was readily available, and there were no issues with the management of any of the federal award programs during fiscal 2013. I think the management letter is probably where we'll have our most discussion, so we'll move on to the financial statements. Again, as I mentioned, we have an unmodified opinion on the financial statements for fiscal year 2013. Again, I think what I'd like to do is give just some overview of what we've seen occur during fiscal 13 and trending now in fiscal 14, as opposed to, and again, we can answer any questions and drill down into any facts and figures that you'd like. We've seen the last few fiscal years, especially 12, 13, and what we're seeing now in 14, we're really seeing a great synergy occurring within all of your financial departments, being treasury, accounting, recently hired a new assessor, established a finance director position. We're seeing consistency in your town administrator's office, in your accounting office. And what that's doing for us is we're really seeing a sense of working together amongst the offices, communicating, reconciliations. As you all know, the management letters for the last number of years have had what we call material weaknesses for not reconciling your cash and receivables. Those are clear in fiscal 13's audit report. We spot checked in the last week where we stand on fiscal 14. Cash and receivables between both treasurer and book, as well as general ledger and treasurer, are up to date through the end of April, and we're working on May's currently. Again, we're only in early June, so all the statements haven't even been received as of yet. So they've really been working hard on it. I've also seen the town accountant office working with all of the various departments to make sure that the commitments that we've seen in the past not being readily provided to accounting and making it into the general ledger are done and completed and reconciled, both in 13 and in 14. Again, normal part of the audit is we, pull number of selections on the expenditure cycle, the revenue cycle, journal entries posted to the ledger, the procurement cycle. Happy to say that no discrepancies came up in all of our selections. All proper supporting documentation that was necessary to approve those transactions was readily available and provided to us. The town has been working their stabilization fund. You had $440,000 as of the end of fiscal 13. Another 400 and change went in during fiscal 14. I know there's another 150 that's been budgeted for fiscal 15. So by the end of fiscal 15, we're talking close to $1 million has now been put away in our stabilization fund. I know there's a lot of issues on the table this year as far as the upcoming meetings and trying to work on the budgets going forward. It's not an easy task. I think from our standpoint, what I would say is I wouldn't expect all of our financial issues and our management letter issues. It would be impossible for them to all be resolved in one fiscal year and to suddenly have millions of dollars in the bank readily available. I think one of the first steps in getting there, working towards having proper financial reserves and or which would ultimately allow a bond rating increase and that type of thing, first has to start with the communication of your departments, with reconciliations occurring timely, with communication occurring within town hall and inclusive of the school department. We're seeing that occurred in fiscal 13. It's definitely occurring in fiscal 14. We have no indication to think that it's not going to continue. Every question, everything that we look for and ask for thus far in fiscal 14 has been readily available to us. I honestly feel that the town and the offices have been working really well together and is on the right path to working and addressing the management comments. Some of the management letter comments that we'll see that haven't been addressed, they're all important. If they make it on the paper, as an audit firm, we feel they're all important. However, yes, you have to kind of come up with a hierarchy of what should be addressed sooner than later. And I feel during fiscal 13, the town addressed cash reconciliations, as I mentioned, receivable reconciliations, some of the others. There was a real issue over the last number of years with the chart of accounts. The way the system works is what we call linking. You report a transaction and part of it is done almost automatically. And some of those behind the scenes links were incorrect. which causes a lot of grief for both your financial operations and trying to audit those balances. Your town accountant has really real time in looking into those. In fiscal 13, we didn't find any linking issues. Everything was posted properly. Yes, there were still some journal entries that are occurring and are fixing some maybe incorrect postings the first time through. But the system itself inherently is now posting properly. The linking issues have been corrected. We had an issue in fiscal 12 with year-end municipal relief transfers during fiscal 13. They were all calculated properly, posted properly, and approved. You know, again, I mentioned before that the accounting office was working with the various departments to make sure all the different departmental receivables. There's some related to harbor master, to police, there's a whole bunch of them that sometimes information flow wasn't always occurring amongst all of your financial departments. It's now occurring. They're being reconciled on a monthly basis. The ledger is up to date. Yes, some of the ones that were unresolved are implementation of some new policies, documentation of existing policies. They're all very important. However, I feel that in fiscal 13, we really did address some of the key comments that were there that affected our financial statements and the flow of information. So I feel that was really positive. And when you look at what was new for this year, fiscal 13, some of them were what we would refer to as informational comments, meaning that student activity accounts need to be audited every so often. We feel that although appropriations are always input into the system, and Wareham's not alone, but many times the revenue side of the budget isn't always input and utilized. It's now being input and utilized. Again, in fiscal 13 it wasn't, but that was implemented in fiscal 14. As I mentioned, we've been out and we've been spot checking some of this stuff. Again, there's new GASBs coming into play in the near future, so we like to, as a firm, to have a comment just to make the town aware of what's coming up, that type of thing, and changes. Also, cross-training. We noticed nothing wrong with the 13 audit, but we do have clients at times where you go in, you ask for particular information, and, oh, Craig's been out sick for 3 weeks, we haven't done that. We can't get you that information timely. Well, really, someone else in that particular department, whatever department it might be, should be able to assume that responsibility and take care of that. Again, that doesn't happen overnight. It has to be, you know, at times worked out with unions, worked out with, you know, the various department heads and that type of thing. But we think it's important to have personnel within a department able to assist and sit in the seat of someone else within their department. Now, it's not always the department head, but sometimes, you know, amongst the various other individuals within that office, you want to have some flexibility there. The only two new comments this year that we felt were financial related, let's say. At times, I think there's been some misunderstanding of how to record some short-term debt within the general ledger. It's a little different than long-term. It's not a revenue source. We've been working with the accounting office to get that. Your financial statements are correct. All proper correcting entries have been provided and worked with in conjunction with your accounting office. However, there were a few needed. You know, so we had to work that out and understand what was the nature of the transaction, what was recorded in the ledger, and work towards making sure that was done correctly. And again, it is in your financials. Your ledger is up to date. Just today, my team was able to take your 14 ledger and prove all beginning balances back to ending balance of fiscal 13. That means that proper corrections were posted timely, that nothing was posted directly to fund balance, which does occur in many places, even though you think that it wouldn't, but it does occur. So for us, that's a really great indication of how fiscal 13 changed, how the offices have been working together and starting fiscal 14 in addressing this information within fiscal 14. The other one, probably one of the more important ones, new comments for fiscal 13 was allowance for abatements. Currently, and again, the likelihood of every estimated liability from the assessing office to be gone through the ATB board and to be settled at their estimate is probably slim to none. But we're auditors, we have to look at worst case scenario or what's information provided to us. Currently, at the end of fiscal 13, if every abatement was granted for the assessing estimate at that time, we would have been about, I believe the number was about $79,000 short on our allowance for abatements. However, my understanding, I have not seen the 14 recap yet, my understanding was that the allowance for abatement figure was increased a little bit for 14 because of this. You have a new assessor in who my understanding is very fluent in the assessing side of it and will work towards, working on the abatements. That's the side, I think the assessing side is, I'm not an assessor, but from my experience, tells me that's probably the more difficult side, meaning that real estate is the largest revenue source of the community. You want someone that knows how to do assessments properly and make sure that the town is collecting what they should be collecting. So my expectation would be that with the new personnel in the office, this will be looked at and addressed on a go-forward basis. And again, yes, it's still along management lines. However, I think when we sat here last year, our hope and expectation was that come the end of fiscal 13, come this meeting this year, we were able to say important items have been addressed and corrected. I feel that I can sit here today and say that. Again, many of what I would refer to as an unresolved has also been partially resolved, meaning there have been steps taken. With the new finance director position, I'm seeing weekly meetings occurring amongst your financial department to discuss items both in the management letter and what's occurring, around town hall and the various issues that your financial team is being impacted by. Things are being addressed. The health trust, I know we've all talked about for many years. The town is looking at various options of maybe moving into sort of like a health insurance consortium to move from self-insured. That's not a Wareham alone issue. For clients as a whole, we've seen a multitude of clients over the last 5 to 7 years, 3 to 7 years, move from self-insured into a Mayflower, a GIC, a similar type of organization. There's still an accounting that will be necessary at the end of fiscal 14 to see kind of where our splits are and what options the town has going forward. If all holds true with the way it's worked, there'll be an employee balance that going forward will be able to be used for the premiums, for, maybe we reduce the premiums for the first year or something on the employee side. Maybe, there's a multitude of ways that can work, and we're more than willing to talk with the administration as that comes more to fruition and you want to develop some real procedures going forward, how to best do it. But I think the idea is that your financial team right now isn't standing on the sidelines saying, well, it is what it is, let's pay our appropriations, see where it pans out. Where, as you all know, the town utilized your free cash last year to put into the fund to try to help those percentage splits. We're looking at other options like the Mayflower Group. We're looking at the cycle of expenditures that are occurring in that fund. So again, yes, it's not completely resolved overnight. I don't think it's an issue that can be completely resolved overnight. But I believe the town is reacting to it and looking at options to resolve this going forward. So I really feel that, and some part of the management letter being long is as a firm, even if something's resolved, it shows up the next year. We like to, as we call it, close the loop. We'll reiterate the comment and give a little bit of an indication of why and or how the town resolved the comment. And then next year, all these ones that we spoke of that were resolved won't appear again. Unless something occurs and they need to. But my indication as of now, May of fiscal 14, everything that's resolved, as well as some that weren't, are all being addressed now in fiscal 14. Would I expect every single prior comment to resolve? No, it's probably unrealistic. But again, I know we worked with EMS to look at the ambulance receivable issues as far as collections, and some of the old items there have been resolved and written down. Again, we're looking into the health trust. We've been working together on some fixed asset. We as an audit firm, we can't come up with your policies, but when your accounting office calls with a question, what do you think about this? Will this work? Does this get us what we need for GASB reporting purposes? We can answer those type of questions, and we've been receiving them. That tells us that your teams are being proactive in working to address the comments. So I really feel that this is one of the best overall audits that we've had in the last few years. Again, the balance sheet isn't maybe as healthy as everybody here would like to see it right away. But that has to come. Your policies have to be structured and implemented to allow your teams to work together, to work towards the ability to make better financial decisions going forward, which will allow the town to build up reserves, to strengthen or tighten budgets, that type of thing, and to address the situations that will allow you to become, what I'll say, more solid, have a stronger balance sheet in the town's eyes.
Thank you. Questions from the board? Mrs. Whiteside?
Yes, thank you. You mentioned the EMS issue. Did you tell them to write off large numbers of over 90s, or what kind of a conversation did you have?
Well, as part of the management letter, we simply noted that there are large outstanding old balances. And, again, I hate to say this, but Wareham's not alone with the ambulance. We see this everywhere. You have maybe seniors that have taken the ambulances that maybe have passed on, and those bills maybe will never be paid. You also have a vacation population that comes in these time of years. Some of them, it's hard to track down. Our conversation was more so that the town should look at the outstanding receivables, look at the aging of them, try to ascertain the attributes that are causing some of these receivables to not be paid timely, and develop a policy that would help going forward to determine when and how to write off some of these old receivables.
But we hire an outside firm to do our billing, so we should get an RFP and have competitive bids for the 2 or 3 different companies in Massachusetts who do this kind of business?
Well, billing is one part of it. I'm not going to suggest I know everything about ambulance billing and the 3 companies. I pretty much know, I believe, the 3 companies you'd be referring to. However, billing is the first step based on the service they receive.
Right, but when a patient is brought in by ambulance, the hospital doesn't touch him or her until all of the information is input as well, unless the person is an extremist. And so there obviously is a connection between EMS and the hospital, or whatever health facility receives the patient. So my question isn't really on the management, it's on the paperwork portion, and we have given the paperwork portion to somebody else. And I guess my comment would be, examine it, please.
I think it'll be resolved. Accounting and the EMS have been working on it. I think you'll see it as something that they will cite as expected to be resolved in FY15.
Thank you. Because, of course, the law in Massachusetts is everybody has to have insurance. In fact, I guess that's the law of the country. So there shouldn't be anybody who can't pay. Uh-huh.
You know, I'm not a
I-
medical
it-
expert, but I think that opinion I can relate to, and I often wonder why the receivables are so high. So, you know, I don't know the whole process of how the billing company deals with the hospital, and so
Okay. Can we move on? I know that you've talked about, in your management letter, you talked about automation of HR functions. For instance, I'm actually into your management letter, page 11. The town should centralize the system of tracking and accruing compensated and absences to ensure compliance, blah, 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 blah. So the function of the bookkeeping should be automated.
Well, what we see is with more and more sophisticated payroll modules being utilized, and the one that the town does use, there are functions in there so that when every employee gets their paycheck, it has the ability to show that you have X amount of vacation hours, X amount of sick hours, and that's, from an audit standpoint, that's like a check and balance, if you will, because we all know how important that, you know, time off and, you know, paid time off is, and everyone, if I'm due 22 vacation days and it shows 1 on my pay stub, I'm gonna bring that to your attention, to the accounting or HR, or whoever's attention right away to have that addressed. What we see in many communities is a hybrid system of each department head maintaining their own department's balances, and then it, for audit purposes, is usually brought up to HR or some central location, and it's compiled for the audit purpose, for the accrual of what is that expected liability. We have not, I must say, through our spot checks and audits of various employee balances and the records supporting those balances, we've not found any indication of incorrect balances and a vacation day not being charged properly, a sick day not being charged properly. In other communities, when you have a manual system and it's really being compiled once a year, you have, you know, 20 different department heads maintaining their department, there's just a lot more area for error to occur. And again, with the systems as they are these days, we just find that automation really seems to help, and or the ability for the employee to have their balances on their paycheck and be able to, what I would call, audit them real time, and if they have a problem, bring that to the community's attention, seems to go a long way.
May I, does the school department use the same payroll system as we do?
Yes, we have Harper's payroll system. They have started modules going by one department. Unfortunately, it's taking them longer to put it together. We also have 11 different unions just on the town side, not including the schools, which have 11 different accruals for each sort of benefit. So their automated modules are not easy to put together. But again, the plan is to go by one department to the next, instead of going by union, as it would be. It would make that some people working in the same area wouldn't have the same benefit.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Mr. Tropiano?
Yeah, okay. I heard you say a minute ago that we're on the right path. And I just kind of want to go at this at a little different angle. Because I wonder what we're on the right path to. See, it seems like we're on the right path to counting the beans properly and managing the beans that we have. But if I was looking at this from the point of view of a corporation, I'd be pretty scared about the difference in the rising costs and the, how should I say this, the unfunded liabilities and all of those issues that actually feed into solid financial planning. And the letter basically talks about counting the beans. We're doing a better job, we're better communicating, we're doing a lot of good things. But I wonder what if you could ad-lib a little bit for me about how you see the financial situation as it's evolving here with, in my estimation, rising costs at a pretty good rate and a small revenue stream. You know what I'm saying? And doesn't that scare you a little
Absolutely.
as you're doing this?
And
As you're doing this?
I think what I would have to say, though, is that is not specific to the town of Wareham.
Well, but that doesn't matter whether it's specific or not. We only have to deal with the town of Wareham, and that's important to us.
Yes.
So what they're doing doesn't matter. I mean, they could be, you know, in bankruptcy, and that's okay with us. You know, not that we want anybody to be, don't get me wrong. But it's more important to us that we are in a better financial position. And I think that there's this sort of thing out there that as we start to say we're doing much better, counting the beans and keeping everything in line and talking better between and all that, that people have to realize that there's also a part of this that is sort of could be disastrous. And I kind of want to get that feel from you. How you feel about that, if there's worry about that, as far as how we're doing fiscally.
It's a tough one to give just a black and white answer.
Yeah, I know that. I know that.
I think the reason that as a firm we feel some of that other peripheral stuff to communicating and reconciling is important as I lead into your answer is because without those procedures in place and strong internal controls amongst your various financial offices, the town will never get to the point where your financial teams have the time to devote to implementation of fund balance policies, budgeting policies, the types of policies that would assist in working through our budgets, establishing reserve funds, figuring out the best way to handle the health trust. I think that even in our firm, costs are always rising. We all have to deal with this. I get it, and it's a serious issue.
Very
I think
serious.
From the last, 3 years or so, as I mentioned, we've seen the town establish the stabilization fund. By the end of 2014, there's going to be close to $900,000 in that fund. We've seen a few years ago, available funds, free cash was being used to balance the budget all the time, more so not for one-time cost, but for ongoing. So we were sort of creating a structural deficit within our budget. We haven't seen that occurring. Last year, we utilized our free cash to try to help the health trust issue. We are voting to establish X amount of our available free cash funds go into our stabilization fund each year. Again, I feel as all those other little functions come together that aren't so important as just saying, are we good fiscally, but they're now allowing your teams more time and the ability to understand more so where our finances lie and to be able to address and work together to develop a plan to address those. Because I think it's fair to say that the state's not suddenly, or some other entity isn't suddenly just going to come over and hand the town of Wareham a check. So we wish that
We'd like that, though.
But because costs are rising across the board of all types, we need to have strong internal controls and policies and procedures that allow our finance teams the time and ability to start addressing the other areas that will allow us to make better fiscal decisions and, as a result, build reserves, strengthening our budgeting process, which will allow our financials to become stronger and stronger on a more fiscal level. I'm not sure if that completely...
No, it's kind of a hard question to answer. That's why I asked it. But it's something that needs to be kept in mind as we're going through this. I don't want everybody to think just because we're doing a much better job at keeping track of stuff and feeding that we're in sort of, great condition as far as our overall fiscal health is concerned. I mean, that's one of the reasons why we're trying to get the community to give us some money to feed into it so that we can resolve some of those issues and sort of put us more on a solvent footprint. That's why we're doing what we're doing coming up. And, you know, sometimes when you tell people, well, okay, you've got a little money put away in stabilization and you add a little more and you did this and you did that, everybody says, well, geez, you must be in great shape then, you know? And I wanted to get from you that there are a lot of issues.
Absolutely. I mean, to suggest that the town's financials are grade A and we have every dollar available, you know, would be not proper to the residents and you know, all the taxpayers of the town. Again, I hate to answer this in a roundabout way, but really, the finances, I really feel as an auditor, are part of all of your other operations, and I think there's been maybe some poor decisions along the way in earlier fiscal years that have caused the town to utilize funds that maybe, I don't know, I can't speak for it, but maybe didn't need to be made, or didn't need to be utilized then and there, or, you know, I know there's been negotiations as far as the splits of health costs, where, you know, again, we're trying to work together to make better financial and fiscal decisions, which in and of themselves, over time, will help to strengthen our balance sheet. It's not something that will occur, you know, overnight. Collections are still strong on the like your real estate side. The collections, first year collections are still very strong. Treasurer's going after tax liens and tax titles when available, when, you know, trying to make either deals or, you know, having to go through that foreclosure process. We are. I really feel it's a function of the fiscal policies that are in place, working together as a team, working towards making better decisions that are ultimately going to help your balance sheet. So yes, I agree. As of right now, if I looked at all of the clients our firm has, would I say that Wareham's balance sheet is the strongest and the most liquid available? No, by all means it's not. We have to work towards that and help continue to build our reserves, strengthening our budgeting process, understand what's important to the residents in the town of Wareham. But I also feel strongly that part of that process is this cohesiveness, stability in your financial departments, working together so that we can then have the time to address these issues to make proper financial and fiscal decisions.
And this is exactly my point. This is perfect, because what we're doing is we're doing a much better job at our accounting procedures. We're doing a much better job at getting to the bottom line, the bottom dollar, seeing what needs to be done and whatever. We've done a terrific job over the last few years of getting that position. So what we're talking about, we know what we're talking about at this point. It's no longer, you know, at a point, not too long back, it was sort of very pie in the sky, as a matter of fact. So with the help of Derek and help of our financial teams, we're doing a really good job at this. So I want people to realize that as well, so that when we tell people what's going on, that we have firm footing about what we're saying. And that's what I wanted people to understand from what was going on in this letter and in what we're doing.
I think one final comment, if I may.
Yes, you may.
The question would be, just kind of sum up what I think you just summed it up perfectly, that as opposed to maybe 3 years ago, the operations of the various financial departments, with the taxpayers of Wareham providing more revenue source to the town to be able to assist and make the decisions needed to provide the services necessary. Currently, I feel that your financial departments are working together, that those funds will be accounted for properly, budgeted for properly, and handled correctly.
My point exactly. Beautiful. Thank you.
How they're spent's the question.
Huh?
How they're spent is the question.
You're correct.
Mr. Holmes.
question. Having been sitting here for the last 4.5 years now, I can sum it up this way. We had a large Kubota digging a hole. And it took several years to get that hole as large as it was. And through the previous board's exercises, I don't think that we've really approved much in that department yet, but I think we did Mr. Sullivan, which of course is number one. But we gave him a lot of tools over the last few years to put those people, the accounting director, to restructure that department, to look at the assessor's office. And having him in the helm now, he's trying to fill that hole back up, and that's the management letter, right? So he can't fill it up in a day. You know, wouldn't expect him to fill it up in a fiscal year. I don't think anybody, if anybody expected that, then that's an unrealistic expectation. Do you agree with that? Okay. So prior to him, we had a guy sitting here with the management letter just checking, yeah, we talked about this, we did this, and considered that stuff complete. When in fact, they talked about it, but they never did anything about it. So, you know, I think that kudos go to Mr. Sullivan there in his work with the Finance Committee especially. They've been very active over especially the last year or so, at talking about these issues, talking through these issues. I still think we have a ways to go. But Patrick's discussion, I think, is not your job specifically. That's what you weren't paid for. But I think the end point is that people, and many of them, have a great distrust in this process that we're talking about. And they've been hearing from Powers and Sullivan, not your fault, but you're just the messenger, right? So they've been hearing from you for all these years how bad it is, and how the management letter, and how we don't reconcile cash. I mean, I've never heard of that till I got here. And so you see things like that, making sure that you know, the treasurer is talking to the accounting director, trying to make sure that the school is starting to blend in there. I think you found some of that going on at its infancy, because he's new here too. So I think that, you know, the message I would present is that we're turning on the beam, counting, because that's critical to anything. If that's not in place, people could give you $10 million, and it's not going to matter, because you're not going to account for that properly, you're not going to spend it properly, you're not going to take the time to invest it properly, right? So I think that over the last couple of years, he's done a bang-up job. And one other comment on the ambulance, this is a difficult one, because not everybody has insurance. They're all supposed to have insurance. But ambulance reimbursement, even people who have insurance have to pay for ambulances, because the insurance will only pay for a portion of the ambulance, depending on what the ambulance was used for. So if you call for an ambulance, and you get to the hospital and this wasn't really an emergency, there's a good chance your insurance company is going to reject that claim, and you're on the boat for 100% of that claim. And people don't have that kind of money. I think it's like, my last one was about $600 to use the ambulance. So if you get somebody who went from the beach to the hospital and they determine it wasn't worth it, the insurance company rejects, well, Pete is on the hook for $600. He's not paying that bill to us, right? It's just not going to happen. So even though you have insurance, you might get some of that reimbursement, but you're not going to get it all. It's very difficult. And hospitals all across the country are finding that, especially community hospitals, that they're not getting the reimbursement. So that's it for me. I just want to make that comment, because I do believe we have a little ways to go, and we're always continuing to get better. That's the thing. We're never going to be done. I would hope that there's never a time that there's no management letter, because that means that we've stopped improving. We've stopped learning. We've stopped advancing. So I would hope that there's always something in there that can help us to improve. And thank you. I think you did a good job. I've read through the reports, and but kudos to these guys, the guys who are in the trenches and the ladies every day. I think they're doing a very good job. So thank you.
Mr. Titlebaum?
Yes, I just wanted to, Selectman Holmes kind of hit on the point I was going to make, which is that in addition to Mr. Sullivan, the accounting, Mr. Foster, sort of driving the ship in a better direction, it certainly requires the cooperation of the department heads, because all of the information comes from the bottom up. That's the system. It's the top that reports to you, which provides you with the information so you can draft the management letter and tell us where our deficiencies are, where we've improved, do the comparative analysis. But that's sort of the apex of a very large triangle that's got a pretty big base to it. And that base is the department heads and the people who work for the town. Absent their cooperation in this, absent their submittal of timely information, absent their submittal of accurate information, you're not going to see an improvement in your management letter. So I just wanted to make the point that we're grateful as well to those people, in addition to Mr. Sullivan and Mr. Foster and the town accountant, Ms. Lazan. So I'd like to thank all the town workers for that.
Larry, I'll turn it over to you in a minute. I just want to make a couple comments just so everybody, again, understands. The auditors are there basically to look at our books, to make sure we're doing things properly, to make sure we're recording and keeping the numbers where they're supposed to be. They're really not there to tell us how to run our business per se. That's really our job itself. What they are there to do is to make sure that we do record things properly. At the end of the day, if you only have $1 in income and $1.10 in expense, you have an issue. That's management's issue. So no matter how good we get as far as our accounting system, which now we're getting to the point where we can basically say we know where every dollar is coming in, we know where every dollar is going out, and we're not making any major mistakes, we're not double counting, etc. But we still have the issue that we do not have enough revenue coming in at the end of the day. And that's something which, no matter how good you are accounting-wise, you can't fix that except by changing the model of how you do business. And that's really something that, as an auditor, from my experience as an auditor, we don't really recommend, never recommended that to a client. We just recommended where they were failing as far as running the business accounting-wise. Larry?
Any questions, Tom?
Not yet.
Not yet?
Are we going to get into the numbers or not?
If you want to ask the question, you go ahead.
Okay. Page 13, these are just so that I understand, not necessarily. Page 13.
Yes. Basic financial statements.
What are warrants payable?
Warrants payable are simply the bill rolls that were outstanding as of June 30th. It's the governmental term for accounts payable.
Okay. The bonds payable, 35 million bucks. Is that right?
Yes.
Where is that? What is it? What's in that picture?
Well, most of it, looking on your page 13, you see that there's two columns. One's a governmental column and one is a business type column. The vast majority of the 35 million resides within the business type column. So it's a lot of water pollution bonds, dealing, infrastructure, that type of thing over the years. And you can, depending on how much detail you're interested in, you could look on page.
We'll get there.
Okay.
We may get there.
All right.
Grants and gifts, $1.5 million. There's, I saw 400,000, didn't I? Or 4 million, was it? Of government grants earlier?
Well, what that represents on this particular statement is, as of June 30th, end of the fiscal year, we're required under GASB 34 to look at the remaining fund balances. Now, if I can just mention, the town has a fiscal year that ends June 30th. Many grants go to the end of August. So as of June 30th, we're required to look at grant funds and gift funds, and essentially for your full accrual statement, which is what we're looking at on page 13, essentially restrict the amount of fund balance that is sitting there related to grants and or gifts that cannot be used for operations.
So they're specific to the grant. Under the next page, page 14, water pollution control facility, the expenses, 6.5 million, 6.6 million, and the charges, $400,000 less. Does that mean that the water pollution control facility is not breaking even?
Well, they also have another 6 million of various grants off to 2 columns to your right from the 6.1. So total revenues are about, let's call it 12.2. And so what that's a part of is, remember the water pollution, they do projects that are under betterment, so we're getting those monies back from the residents that could receive the benefit of those betterments. Some of it is, I'm sorry, I just have to go to a different schedule to just see the detail of that. But betterments and then interest received on betterments is a large portion of that number. Again, the expense out the door includes both operational and capital type items that may not be what we call fixed asset of the community. So this is a full accrual statement, and so what we'd have to do with that 6.5 to look just at operations would be to put together a budget that would say, here's simply our operational budget of the water pollution, disregarding anything to do with betterments, capital, any other types of capital related that could be being funded from the other 6 million, to then really be able to answer that on an operational standpoint.
Do we do that?
If you remember what you received on the water pollution control facility from Powers and Sullivan, then the DOR review, we have changed the way we budget for that, and we feel this has been resolved in the future.
And it will break even.
It's actually got a positive balance.
And on page 19, the net change in other post-employment benefits of $5 million net. So our obligations for post-employment over the past year have gone up $5 million. Is that comfortable, normal?
It's actually quite normal in the state of Massachusetts currently. There is no mandate to fund the OPEB liability, other post-employment benefits. So what is occurring is the town's required to have an actuarial valuation to compute what that unfunded liability is. In a nutshell, the actuary comes up with what we call an ARC, annual required contribution. The vast majority of communities currently are still operating on what we call a pay-as-you-go basis. So they're paying for current retirees and other benefits that are being paid for within the current fiscal year. And because we're not making the ARC, which is also being utilized to amortize the unfunded liability for past service costs, therefore the liability does increase each year. And it's hard to just compare the 5 million to other communities, but I have communities that it goes up $40 million a year. You know, obviously a much larger community or a large city, but it's all relative depending on the amount of employees and retirees that the town of Wareham has.
So we're in the $85 million in total thing, is that right? We just piled another $5 million onto that?
Well, you have your unfunded, well, we gotta answer that in 2 ways. The current liability on the books is 22.4. But when you look back at the last actuarial valuation, your unfunded liability, which needs to be done every 2 years for GAAP purposes, $82 million, which is on page 58, is essentially the unfunded piece as of 7/1/12.
And it went up $5 million. Sure. Okay.
Yes.
On page 45, this is my last question. The current year claims and charges and estimate. This is about health insurance. is 8,723,000. Is it, I don't understand that. That's what we spent for health insurance?
No, the next column over, claim payments, is, this is, remember, we're still self-insured currently. So what happens is, this schedule is kind of showing how we come up with what we, not how we, how the town comes up with in combination with GBS group benefit to understand what we call incurred but not reported liability. So you all know if I go to the doctor on June 10th, the chances of that bill making it through your health care to come in to be paid prior to July, August, maybe even September these days is slim to none. So as of June 30th, the town gets information from group benefit and looks at the trend of how long it's taken this information to flow through the pipeline to be paid. And the estimate of about $807,000 as of June 30, 13 is the estimated amount of claims that were incurred prior to June 30th, but didn't make it through the pipeline to be paid by June 30th.
Is that the whole year, or is that just
That would be for fiscal 13, correct? So
807?
807 is what, and sometimes some of those are older than fiscal 13, severe injuries, you know, maybe very severe type of illnesses go on for many years. But for the most part, that is the residual, the 807 would be the residual of what actually occurred in fiscal year 13 with the estimates from the outside parties looking at the health trust and the claims history and that type of thing, which was what kind of comes into the estimate to get down to what they feel would be.
So we run about $70,000 a month in insurance benefits. That's what that says?
Sounds all right. Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Larry, thank you.
Joan? Anything?
No, I just want to make a comment that the report was excellent, and however, we do need to work together with the different departments and with the different boards. Yeah, absolutely. I didn't have any questions, though, just a comment. Thank you.
I just wanted to say it was a good report, and it sounds like we are working together and keeping our checkbook balanced. We just have to remember that even if we balance our checkbook, we can still go bankrupt.
When I first sat here, I guess, I don't know, three years ago, and it was Mr. Powers was here, and he held out a 13-page major weaknesses report, and then he told us we got an unqualified opinion. I had a real hard time justifying an unqualified opinion in a 13-page major weaknesses, and you know we're down to 6 pages, and most of that's it's not the same thing I looked at before, because now I hear the words up-to-date cash reconciliation, I hear communication with departments, I hear improvements of stabilization, and you know, I see that we're making better fiscal decisions. But one thing I get out of this is confidence. I have more confidence in our financial people here. While we didn't always have the time to go through monthly financial reporting, it was available, which is something that was not available before. And a 5-year plan was impossible without up-to-date cash reconciliation. So I want to thank Mr. Sullivan and his group not only for the hard work, but for getting the right people in the right places so that we can have confidence not only in our financials, but in the people doing them. So, and I appreciate all the work you've done as well.
Mike McMillan, too.
Who? Oh, yeah.
School.
Oh, Michael McMillan.
Yeah.
All right, that's it for us. We're done.
Thank you, everybody. I appreciate Craig coming in and doing this. We wanted to do this so the public could actually hear rather than these things being done what I call behind closed doors, which has been a common policy for years. We're just trying to get everything out in front and show people that we are making a very strong effort to bring forth what's really happening in the town and what we have facing us, and no matter how good we get at this, we still have to find a way to get a positive cash flow. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you, Mr.
We'll take about a 2-minute, 3-minute break and let everybody get settled, and we'll come back to our regular meeting. We're ready to continue. Everybody, please quiet down. Thank you. Mr. Tropiano,
Would you,
Announcements?
want me to recall the roll, or what do you want me to do?
No.
No, okay.
we'll
All
just
right.
continue along.
All right, so
Announcements,
next
please.
is announcements. Any announcements, Mr. Titlebaum?
Just that we have a special election coming up on June 17th. Polls are open from 8 o'clock till 8 o'clock. The polling places are Precinct 1 is at Town Hall, Precinct 2 is at the Hammond School, Precinct 3 is at the Minot School, Precincts 4 and 5 are at the Deacon School, and Precinct 6 is at the Minot School. Last election, there was some confusion among the folks in Precinct 6. They weren't aware that it wasn't at the Elks anymore. So make a note, Precinct 6, Minot School. Thank you.
Ms. Whiteside.
Yes, this Saturday, the 7th, starting at 8:30 in the morning, we're going to be up the cleaning up and the short work on Lopes Playground. We will, yes, this Saturday, because the 15th is Father's Day. We will be finishing the, what do you call those towers?
Cupolas.
The cupolas, and we will be painting some of the things that have been painted in the previous time. Thank you for all of the people who worked before, and I expect to see the Longs, the Kileys, Mr. Leggett, Mr. Tropiano. Yeah. Mr. Titlebaum. The usual crew. The usual crew.
Usual suspects.
So we will try and get it as good as we can this Saturday. Thank you so much. And I guess we should note that for part of the day, the playground, in fact, will be closed.
Just more in that regard. I parked at Lopes when I went down to assist with the triathlon this past weekend, Saturday, and it was very heartening to see a bunch of young families there using the equipment. We hadn't seen that in quite some time. So apparently the word's getting out that it's in better shape, and you can actually plunk your 4-year-old down on it and not have him get a butt full of splinters.
Mr. Holmes.
Thank you very much. I would just like to, if you're driving down towards Onset and you go over Stone Bridge heading towards Buzzards Bay, look up to the right and you'll see our new Osprey pole with platform. I got a picture this morning from Larry's wife, as a matter of fact, Liz McDonald, from the Wareham Land Trust. And actually was a picture of 2 ospreys on top of the platform. Now don't get excited. Nothing's going to happen on that platform until next year. But it's good to know that they could find it, land on it, and relax there for a few minutes. So I want to thank those folks at NSTAR and Mary over at Maintenance and Mr. Sullivan. Just let me know when that bill comes in, and we'll make sure that we get that straightened out for you, because we don't want any costs to the town. I think the only bill we got is the $176 for the police detail, right?
And Star ended up eating the detail as well.
So they did. So we don't owe you anything.
No, the only thing that needs to be done at some point is put aluminum around the base of it so the squirrels and such can't climb
Okay.
up the pole.
Well, just let us know what you need. We can do that. I mean,
Yeah,
there's
so if you guys...
a couple of follow-up steps. Now that the pole is in place, there's a couple things we'd like to do there. People, and again, at no cost to the town, people from the neighborhood, Osprey Association, the Boys and Girls Club. One thing we'd like to do is at some point get a, you know, like when you visit somewhere and you're on vacation and you go up to something, there's a board there, and it tells you all about the history and information about it. We'd like to get a board like that for Osprey to let people know what Osprey are all about. In the Boys and Girls Club, or the YMCA, it's the Boys and Girl Club, Larry Center. They're also looking at the possibility of putting a camera there. Some of it we might have to edit, but putting a camera there to actually watch the Osprey from initial landing to building the nest to having eggs to hatching the eggs and all that sort of stuff. So this really has taken on a new life of its own. And I've made the comment several times that great things can happen when people work together, and certainly there's a lot of people that have worked together on that project. In continuing the trip, Dolores dumped a boatload of money at Olson's Nursery. You don't have to do that, but at least stop by and visit them. They're open in full swing for the summer. She also went over to Home Depot and picked up some plants. Those are pretty reasonable. I grabbed some grass seed. So there's a lot of easy things you can do to help spruce up the lots. Another idea, I did it. There was a young man up the street who came by looking to cut the grass. And many of you know where I live. It's a sizable lawn. I mean, it's not, 6 acres, but it's sizable lawn. He charges me $20 a week. So I got a kid who's working, making a few bucks that he can spend, helping him with some responsibility. And as you know, I travel a bit, so he has to chase me sometimes for the $20. But so, if you can afford $10 a week or something for a young guy or a lady to come and work in your yard, it's a good resource for our youth in the town. I did want to commend Tim. I sent him an email over the triathlon. That is an amazing organization that comes in on a Friday night, and a couple hours after the race is complete, you don't even know they were there. It's a tremendous organization. He has a lot of volunteers, but their planning is unbelievable. I was with Lieutenant Walsh, and he was saying that they've been talking about this for months. So to the triathlon people, Tim, if you hear this, I would like to see the August thing happen, or maybe October, and get another weekend back here with y'all. So that's it for me.
All right, I have one. Wareham Coffee Hour. Everybody knows they usually have these at the library. They have an interesting twist this week. Miss Margaret Phillips, the admission coordinator at Kindred Traditional Care and Rehabilitation, the former, Forest View Nursing Home. They're going to have a nice facility tour, view of the programs, activities and staff, personal consultations can be provided. And they're going to meet at the facility on 50 Indian Neck Road in Wareham. Arrival time's 9:15, and it's Thursday, June the 5th, 2014. And if you want to call ahead to the Kindred number is 1-508-295-6264. And that's what I have today. You're up, Mr. Chairman.
I'll repeat again. We have the Seed Corporation, the Cape Cod 5 Savings, is going to be providing free basic entrepreneurial workshops in Wareham Wednesday, June 18th at the new Cape Cod 5 Savings Center over 10 Roseburg Place. Again, Wednesday, June 18th. Learn the fundamentals in planning, preparing, and financing for your business. They will be held from 9 to noon. Registration begins at 8:30. And the second seminar will be understanding the purpose of financial statements and how they can help determine the health of your business. That will be held from 1 to 4 p.m. Also, coming up on June 5th, we have, July 5th, we have the Blessing of the Fleet. Anybody who's a boater or something, see Mr. White. They will have proceeds over at the, off the pier. We're coming up on the Celebration 2014 events. Major event is coming up June 13th, 14th, 15th. It's going to be the encampment. The encampment will be over at Center Park, and also be events at Bessie Park. The main day will be on the 14th. We'll actually be closing the road down, a portion of Main Street going up to Gibbs Street. There'll be an American attachment, there'll be a British attachment, and they will be basically running something similar to what happened as far as the two militias. And it'd be a very nice time. It'd be a very good family time, so I hope everybody will take some time and go. Thank you.
All set? All right.
They've been cleaning as they go along.
Oh, I don't think we, I don't know if we
It's contaminated soil, Steve, you can't. No, actually, what Mr. Holmes is talking about is there was a comment back about 3 or 4 weeks ago talking about people taking sand that's on the road and sweeping it into the stormwater drains. There, unfortunately, about a week and a half after that, there was a major conference about stormwater drain management issues with the state and federal government. Sweeping sand into a catch basin like that, that sand is contaminated and it's considered pollution, nitrogen, etc. And they were kind of a little upset that we actually recommended they do that. So please don't do that. We have to pick it up and dispose of it. Either that or they have to dispose of their own property if it's in front of them. But you can't dump it down the storm drain because you cause more of a problem. Thank you. Go ahead, continue.
All right, next is citizens' participation. Anybody here to? Okay, Mr. Chairman, you decide.
Well, we'll start off on the left side as close as we'll go to line. Mr. Walton, I guess you're there.
You know the procedure there about logging into the book there for us, please.
I don't know who I am. Dave Walden, District 3. I have two totally unrelated questions or observations. Is not Thursday the event down in Mezzaluna for raising money for the fireworks? I think that should be announced if it is Thursday, where they have the raffles and the blind draws and et cetera, et
We
cetera.
did it last week, but we'll do it again. Well,
Okay, no,
actually, you're
because
doing it now.
You're doing
I've
it.
talked to people who didn't know anything about it, so I want to make sure. The other thing, which is unrelated to that, is a good friend of mine's son was on my case today and wanted to know when the train platform is going to be finished because he's anxious to put his bike on the train and head for Hyannis for the day. And I said that it was over some silly person decided it's got to have a canopy on it. Now, and I know the answer to the question, but I think a lot of people out there don't know how are we doing with the schedule for that, because there are people who are very interested in the cost and the idea of maybe hopping on for a few hours in Hyannis.
I would say that probably the safest date is right around July 1st.
Okay, so we're going along. Okay, because people have been asking, and they're looking at the prices, and that $8 round trip is not bad at all for a nice day trip in Hyannis.
Thank you for coming up.
All right, so I got the thing right here. Fireworks fundraiser Thursday, June 5th, 2014, between 5:30 and 8:30 p.m. at Mezzaluna Restaurant, 253 Main Street, Buzzards Bay. Tickets are $10. Includes a chance to win a door prize and complimentary hors d'oeuvres. Live auction, 50-50 raffles, gift raffles, and so on. OnsetBayFireworks.com or info@OnsetBayFireworks.com.
You'll see Mr. Walton sitting in the middle with a bunch of women around him.
Thank you for bringing that up, by the way. Who's next? You're doing the left side. Come on down. Come on down. You're the next contestant.
William Cook.
How you doing, Bill?
I'd just like to bring to your attention that in the Onset parking lot at the Temple Theater, there is the old cellar hole. It's got quite a dip in it, and I'm afraid that before this summer, you get a real good hot day, and a bus goes across it, or a truck, it's going to be in the hole.
I believe there was mention of that about a week and a half ago, and I believe we've already forwarded information to municipal maintenance because I went through that during the Escape the Cape going over there, and I think it was filled and it's already sunk down more again. So we need to go back again with Mr. Sullivan and speak to Mr. Menard about it. It's a fairly good depression. It's probably the...
I know it.
You saw it too, right?
Yeah,
It goes from about here down to halfway down the second table,
It's a
and it's
typical
twice as wide.
Old cellar hole.
Yep.
It's got to be
And
compact.
I think they threw a lot of the stuff in it from the Temple Theater, and then they just put a little gravel in it, and now that stuff is all rotted, and It's going down.
Again,
Yeah, I don't think we'll find any treasure when we open it up either, so. So, thank you, I appreciate it.
thanks for
You're
bringing that up again. Jerry, I think you were first in line on that side, and then we'll go to the front to back on the stand.
Boy, I haven't seen you up here in a while, Jerry.
Yeah, I know. This may be trivial to you. First, I'm on District 4, but I noticed in the town of Wareham, over there at the fire station, they tore up that nice parking space. Nothing wrong with that tar road where they park. And they did it all over to make it beautiful and put up those posts up there. And I thought maybe we were going back to the horse and buggy where you go tie horses on it. Who paid for that? I know the water department didn't pay for it, and I know the fire department didn't pay for it. Who authorized that?
That's a grant.
And how much did it cost?
That was paid by Community and Economic Development.
Yeah, who pays for that?
That would be the taxpayers from the federal, that pay to the federal government.
The people paid for it, right? Who authorized it, I said?
That would have been done through the CEDA office.
And who gave him permission?
I think he would have asked to just do it as part of the project.
I don't think that tearing up a good parking lot, nothing was wrong with it, and putting brand new, I see them when they tore it all up, was that cost money.
Yes.
You want to get rid of the senior citizens where they go and have their meetings and everything. You want to get rid of them. How much did that cost?
I don't want to get rid of anybody.
Yeah, sure. It's the taxpayers that's paying for it. I like to know how much it costs.
I believe it was approximately $24,000.
Beautiful. $24,000. And there's something you can't do for the senior citizen or for town of Wareham?
Jerry,
Tearing up a good parking lot?
Jerry, I usually don't ad lib in these things, but I just want you to know that money is money that came from the grant from the federal government. There's really nothing, we couldn't take that money and spend it anywhere else. You know what I mean?
Who pays for the grant? Federal grant?
Well, everybody pays in their taxes.
Thank you. That's all I want to know.
But it has nothing to do with your local taxes.
Yeah.
You know, it's what you pay when you pay payroll taxes and what have you. Goes to the federal government, and then we apply for the grants, and they gave us the money. So it's really kind of good that we got some of the money, and we're able to fix that and sort of head off what could become a problem later on. You know what I mean? And it didn't cost us or the town a penny, really. You know what I mean? It all came from the federal grants. Now, indirectly, did it come from taxpayers? Yeah, but it was nothing we could do. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but there was nothing wrong with it.
Well, but there's no monies that we couldn't have taken that money and say give it to the senior center. Really, it's not in our control. So I just want you to understand that, okay?
Well, I'm pretty upset about it.
I know you
don't
are.
care.
I know you are, and you're usually
Nothing
not.
wrong.
So,
Nothing wrong.
and you're usually not. So. Oh boy.
Yes, Mrs. Slavin.
And she's got a clipboard.
Okay.
At least it's not a frying pan.
Good evening, Sandy Slavin. One of the things that were discussed last week was the private ways in the town of Wareham. I've asked before and I'll ask again, are there any word or words that would be used to identify a road on which public cannot access, therefore we would not plow? I am a member of a Conservation Commission, so I'm always look around town looking at sites. I'd be willing to take pictures of all the signs that prevent public access to private ways to help identify those places that we don't want to plow or can't plow, but I need to know what words. The word private way, no public, residents only. What words or combinations are such that would identify a private way that does not have public access?
Go ahead and try.
No, and I apologize. I shouldn't, Mr. Jerry over there. We've stopped the format where we go back and forth and speak back. So I apologize. I did that. But also the law states restrictive signage.
Say that again?
Restrictive signage.
And what is a restrictive sign? Does the word private mean restrictive?
And then I would say we can have town council write something up on that.
Okay, because as I say, I'm out there around just making
So
photos.
that sounds like a lawyer term.
Yeah.
The other thing to remember is the board hasn't decided any policy in this regard, so it would be premature. The issue is not yet ripe, I guess a lawyer would say, for anybody to go out and try to document these sites at this time, because we haven't ascertained the methodology by which we intend to do that. So I'd keep the camera at home from now until you hear otherwise.
I need it out there for conservation anyway, so I was just wondering, because it said if it's not not available to the public, we don't plow. So I thought I misunderstood. If I misunderstood that, I apologize. But I'm willing to take the pictures if you feel you don't, if you need help making that happen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else on that side? Okay, let's go back to work then.
Oh, there's
there
a
is?
young lady right there.
Couldn't see your hand. Come on up, sorry.
I'm Corinne Baker, native of Wareham, been here all my life, 4 generations back. I applied for the position on the Board of Directors for the Council on Aging. Like to see it go forward.
Okay,
And,
it's actually coming up in a little bit, so.
Yeah.
They will, when it's under the appointment, so they will call you forward when they're speaking about it to go over it with you. But I appreciate you coming up.
Thank you.
Thank
Anyone else? Okay, moving on. Licenses and permits. Amend the permit of red coats. Hold on. Let's see. What the heck is that? Fourth quarter billing. We'll do that afterward. We'll do that later.
This is a change on the,
Red
to include
coats
the
and
road
residents,
closure, which
yeah.
they didn't,
Yeah.
they forgot to put in when they did their.
All right, so, no vehicles or equipment remaining in the town property. Okay, so this is for some road closures that we need to sort of amend their approval. And it says, permission is hereby given to Wareham, and I'll make this in the form of a motion. Wareham Summer of Celebration 2014, 40 Oak Street, Wareham, for the use of the Tremont Nail Town Green Old Town Hall parking lot for the following events: Red Coat Residents,
No.
Crafts and... Yeah, okay. To include road closures of Main Street from just past CVS Plaza to the corner of Gibbs Ave, Park Street, Elm Street, and the short section of Tyonet Road by Mill Pond Diner.
Second.
Just for information, my understanding is that's for July 14th, even though it says
yes,
13, 14, and
It says
15.
13, 14, and 15, but only for July 14th?
I believe that's the day they're actually doing the event.
All right, between 10 a.m. and 8 p.m.
I already seconded.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 500.
All right, we now have a request for use of town premises from Onset Cape Verdean Festival. And let's see.
Mr. Roderick?
Come on down.
I have a handout. Information on it.
Hey, Mike. How you doing?
We got food?
Oh, you have a whole packet. A lot of
Thank you.
pages. No, I got one. Thank you.
Thank you.
Like 5 or 6
Okay.
pages.
I gotta give this one too.
No, we need an insurance claim from this.
I asked Rich about that.
Okay.
We can make it.
Well, we're gonna have to deal with that at some point. All right, so go ahead, tell us what's happening.
Mike Roderick, vendor coordinator.
Deneen Rose, president.
The festival is August 9th, 2014, and everything is set except a parking issue, which we need to know about. And I've talked to Derek about it, but we need to bring it up here to see if it has been a decision made on who's going to do the parking, whether we can do it and get the people, or the municipal department is going to do the parking the day of the festival.
Should you read into the record exactly what we're talking about?
Yeah, I'll do it.
Okay.
All right. This is given to the Onset Cape Verdean Festival Association, Onset, Mass, for the use of Onset Bandshell Bluffs and to close off a portion of Union Ave for the annual Onset Cape Verdean Festival, August 9, 2014, from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. Also, Woburn Ave from Centennial Place to parking lot designated for disabled shall be kept open and barriers erected to protect pedestrians. The location of the barriers is to be described in the town, and this is where we have to decide where this is going to be. Okay, so Americans with Disabilities officers.
Mr. Sullivan, I think Mr. Roderick was talking about the parking issue.
Yes, with the selectmen policy on the parking with Heinz Field and Lopes Field, that nobody can go in there and charge. It can only be the town. Mr. Roderick and I have spoken about it a few times. I had made a suggestion of what a price would be if they would like to charge for parking on there. I felt what it did was we didn't have to use municipal employees and such where we stand, and it also brought some monies into the town. However, I think it's that the feeling is, and you can elaborate on it, that you only raise X amount of dollars and winner it goes to, and you didn't feel that you could pay such a fee. I said,
Yes.
I'm only empowered to negotiate a fee. I can't waive any sort of fee, so it'd have to come to the Board of Selectmen.
The reality of the matter is this: there's about 500 cars that can be parked between Heinz Field and Lopes Field. It has to be manned for 8 hours. You have to have order as soon as you get the first car there. That means there's 3 people at each site for an 8-hour day. We usually farm that out to OBA. Crime Watch has done it. Relay for Life has done it. This year, the VFW guys want to do it. Out of that $5,000, we end up sharing half with whatever organization does the work. The other money, the other $2,500, $1,300 goes to the shuttle bus that we have running from each field back to the festival. There's $200 in supplies. We have to have Johnny on the spots at each field. We have to have yellow tape. And we've purchased already the signage for the parking. So we stand to make out of all that $1,000. That handout I gave you shows our expenses each year for the festival that we pay to the town, be it the municipal department, the police department, the sheriff's department, the EMTs, extra porta potties, because the bathrooms there aren't sufficient. And we feel that that $1,000 is money that is well earned by getting all the people in town, and we would like to keep that $1,000 and not share it. Not that we're being greedy. We love the town, but we do have expenses for the festival, and that's how we feel about the issue.
And with,
Anything else?
yeah, with that said, we, there is a printout of everything that we give as far as donations to the community. You can see that we spend a lot related to the festival. We also do $10,000 each year for scholarships, which that money goes towards. We've given to the Summer of Love for the Wareham Summer Celebration. We just donated $2,000 for that. So we give out a lot throughout the years. I had a total, basically from 2010 to now, we've given out about $95,000 to the community and the town. that day of the festival, we bring a lot of revenue, and a lot of people are already booking hotels and stuff to come in for that day. They usually, plan their reunions and stuff like that around. So the town does generate, along with the businesses, a lot of money on that day.
So I'm,
Questions from the board?
yeah, the,
The request for a fee that I had made was $1,000, seeing as you can make between 3 to 5,000, even if you have 500. If it was, let's say, something happened, you didn't have all five. I'm sure you hit all of them, but I looked at our costs on there and I said I felt that $1,000 was fair. We would bring money into the town, and it would also keep us from having to have municipal employees out there. Now, that's just from the town side.
Mr. Titlebaum?
Yeah, we've said that we were going to charge for events. On the other hand, I don't know of many events that generate as much back as this one does. So that's the question and the tension, the dynamic here. If we're going to stick with our policy, then we need to negotiate some kind of a fee, even if it's a nominal one.
Mrs. Whiteside? Mr. Tropiano?
Yeah, okay. All right, so, last week we had some people in here that, from tourism, and we gave them Heinz Field basically excluding events
For this year.
to operate free for this year. Okay? Basically, that's what we did. So, I don't see, if that's what we've done, and we've done others. This year we've had people use some of the parking areas for various odd events. Just recently, we did it for Escape the Cape. We allowed them to use Lopes Field, and so on. So it seems to me that this season, we've sort of violated our policy in every which way but loose. So I'd like to see us, in this case, continue to do that, although I'd like to have a caveat and make you realize that next season, we're going to have to do it different. We're going to have to stick to the policy, and we're going to have to go back to, for everybody. It's all going to have to go, and it's all going to have to change. And it is because, look, guys, it's not because of your festival or anybody else's. The town is struggling. We just don't have the money anymore to do the things that need to be done. And I know you guys do a great job. You've been doing this for a long time. And the festival, for me, this is my opinion. These guys can weigh in however they want. And I know you do a wonderful job, and it's been a terrific event over the years. And I'd like to see it continue, but it's just gotten to the point where, not just because of your event, because of all of the events, and Escape the Cape and everybody else is not going to get out clean for this anymore. But this year we've kind of sort of violated the thing, and I don't see how we can not do it in this case either. And that's my opinion.
Mr. Holmes?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, that's a very sad endorsement of the Board of Selectmen. We're a policy board in the town of Wareham, and we can't follow our own policies. So that's pretty bad on its own. How many more seasons do we have to go through this? We went through it last season and said this season, we're going to charge for parking. We've made the investment in a parking program. CETA made an investment in having an audit of parking done. Mr. Sullivan has made an investment into buying kiosks. We now have neighborhoods of people where we're looking to charge them basically to park in front of their own house. They don't have they don't have a driveway, so they're going to go down and get a dump sticker and park in front of their house. And here we sit. In a couple of weeks, you're asking people for a bunch of money because we don't have any money, and yet the word free is still flying around. Every community you go to, do they charge for parking? I don't know anywhere where parking's free, especially in a beachside community. So, you have to cut your losses somewhere here. I think the fact that we gave Mr. Sullivan the authority to negotiate with organizations for a price tag for parking, as opposed to saying, no, it's only the town. We gave him that authority. He went with that authority. He's come up with a decent price. Now, what the organization does to pay that bill to Mr. Sullivan is their business. Maybe they give the other guy, instead of giving him 50%, they only give him 40% this year to cover Mr. Sullivan's fee. But to keep saying, oh, we're going to make an exception, we're going to make an exception, you know, and then we have people, we're going to start charging $30 to park in front of our house. We're going to make an exception for them until next season, or until we start charging out-of-towners to park. So, you know, as much as I love the Cape Verdean Festival, I love Wareham, and I think that, you know, we're in dire financial straits here to keep giving stuff away for free. That's just my opinion.
Mrs. Whiteside.
Unfortunately, I agree with Mr. Holmes. I think your festival is a wonderful festival. I think that you've done a great deal for the community. But we did set a policy, and Mr. Sullivan's negotiated price of $1,000, $1,000, I don't think is unreasonable.
Mr. Tropiano.
Okay, so we did set a policy, which we violated with Escape the Cape, which we violated with tourism.
What tourism? Mr. Chairman, I don't know what he's talking
well,
about.
We'll tell you in a minute.
Oh.
The Heinz Field doesn't have a kiosk. Lopes Field doesn't have a kiosk. I mean, you're going to have to put people out there. They're going to put the people out there to do the collections and what have you. I don't see how you can say, well, Escape the Cape can have use of the field without any costs, and our Department of Tourism can have Heinz Field for the entire summer without paying any costs. And all of a sudden, for the Cape Verdean Festival, you're where we're drawing the line. I'm sorry, but that just doesn't work for me. I get what you're saying, and believe me, I agree that we need to start with the policy and work the policy, because that's what we decided. I totally agree with that. But I don't think this is where we draw the line. I don't think we can, because we've already violated our own policy. And so it's only fair. And that's what I'm saying. It's a matter of fairness as far as I'm concerned at this particular stage. Now, I think at some point we should put kiosks up there in case we ever need them and so on and so forth. And I think maybe next year that's something that could possibly happen. And then it becomes even more viable for us to charge for parking. And as far as the fee thing for residents, we haven't decided that yet. That issue hasn't come in front of us, and we haven't made that decision whether we're charging residents or not. And I think when we hear all the information, maybe we will, maybe we won't. I don't know. But we have to wait till that comes in front of us before we say we're going to be charging you for anything. But this is kind of a unique situation, and it's our own fault. I take responsibility just like anybody else. I have to take responsibility for violating the policy. I did last week. I think, we have to say, okay, we did it. And let's just do it right and get it to where, okay, this is our drop dead thing, and let's move on.
May I offer a suggestion?
Yes.
Before you even start, let me just go ahead. I'll make a comment. We had a proposal from the Beach and Tourism Committee. Mr. Holmes was not there last week. Their proposal was based on the idea that we didn't have any kiosks in place for either Lopes or Heinz Field for this year, and would not have them in place because we didn't have money for it. We also had not cleaned up either one of the fields, and therefore there's issues with putting people in there, us having to charge the park, having some liability issues, et cetera, among other things. We also had GATRA was willing to go ahead and basically provide on Saturdays and Sundays transportation shuttle service, because at the end of the day, the game plan is to try and get people to use the pier and to use the temple lot. What happens is when the majority of the tourists come in to the town, they go and park in front of other people's houses, anywhere but where they can pay. So we were trying to push people out to make it more reasonable to get them out to those outlying areas so we can maximize the use of what we have that's available to us right now. It's one of the reasons we did it. Part of that agreement also was that if anybody runs an event, then those two areas basically are not free anymore, is what we voted on last week. But in this particular case here, if you look at the dollar amount that the Cape Verdean Association, what they're actually making, just taking everything else, forget our policy. And if you look over the last 3 years, it's been decreasing on a yearly basis. I know myself with the Historical Society, It's very hard to keep these things going, and it's very hard to make any money. They're putting a tremendous amount of money back into the community. We went ahead and we did give Escape the Cape to use not only the pier, but Heinz Field, et cetera. We basically, they had to pay for the temple lot. We didn't charge them anything for those areas. We're trying to put something in place as quickly as we can, but all we have in place right now is the temple lot, and we have the pier as far as paying. The other area, of course, is on Main Street. Mr. Sullivan, I believe you were restriping onto that today, or?
Yes, they changed it to, yeah.
So we're increasing to about 38 spaces. Not an increase, but the total's gonna be like 38 spaces there.
Right, we actually, when we took the ones from the other side and brought them over, we thought we were going to increase by a couple. It was a net loss altogether of one space,
You
which
lost
was,
one?
yeah, it was with the crosswalks. If we eliminated one of the crosswalks, we would have picked up two more, but we'd rather have the crosswalks there.
And we haven't done Union Ave yet, right?
No, we didn't.
That's another piece. Again, I've always been pretty black and white guy, and I've always stuck to process procedures and everything, and that's one of the things I'm consistent with. But for us to sit there and run the lot, have to hire people with all the liabilities and all the costs, at the end of the day, I don't think we'd make any money at all. We'd probably lose money to the town. Yes, it's against the policy, but my feeling is that for $1,000, it's not worth it to what's going on here. It's a positive influence to the community. It has a positive cash flow to the community. And on top of that, it has a positive cash flow to the town. So my feeling is that, as much as I hate to say it, I would support not charging at this time. Next year, we've already told everybody everything will be in place, and then we'll follow procedures. We're just putting things in place, and we've had to backtrack, and I'm not comfortable backtracking, but I'm not going to be firm in policies when it just doesn't make sense to me at all. Thank you. Mr. Holmes.
Well, thank you for that, Mr. Chairman. Then we should, in open session, we should just dump the policy if we're not going to follow it. And then people know that we're not going to charge there, and then you don't have to go through this. Saves a lot of aggravation.
Something
Right.
We'll bring it back up and we'll work on it.
Just dismiss the policy.
That's all.
This could be a good learning tool. Both those lots should be full. Let's monitor them, figure out how many cars we actually can park there. Let's monitor the fact of how many people it actually takes to man it and how long, and use it next year for a learning tool so we know.
Yeah,
This is going to be full
Yeah.
versus
we just
halfway.
we just don't want to see what happened a couple of years ago when you had a couple of kids that were really pretty sharp, came in and were manning what looked like a parking area and were collecting money and then disappeared at the end of the day. That was quite embarrassing for all of us. So we do have to control what goes on.
Yes.
Mr. Tattlebaum.
I just wanted to say, those were your dollars at the time they were walking off with, so, to Mr. Holmes's point about enforcement, I don't know that we tear the policy up. I think we perhaps suspend enforcement of it until next season when we can get all our ducks in a row and treat everybody equally.
Well, and that would be my comment, is that you're not going to follow the policy for the rest of this season. You've already given this tourism group, and then if somebody, and they're not even going to go to Mr. Sullivan and negotiate, so parking is free for this season. Is that what you're saying? Is that what I'm hearing you?
For Heinz and Lopes.
Right.
Actually, for Heinz only. Heinz is the only place that's free.
And what about Lopes?
Lopes wasn't even in the mix as far as what they
Lopes
asked
is a
for.
park. Like, you're down there cleaning up.
Yeah,
Well,
but
they use local
they do, but what
Right.
I'm saying is that the agreement with the beach and tourism was strictly for Heinz, not for Lopes.
But should
But
we
do you-
really?
do you use
would
the
really be
playground?
You're down there cleaning it up. Where are you going to
Yeah,
park
they do.
cars
They
there? I
use
still don't understand the parking there. Where do you park in the baseball
Where,
field?
yeah, where do you park?
If I may say something, with the Lopes Park, I mean, when you guys did your thing, we were there as well, the Cape Verdean Festival, helping, trying to participate. We did actually donate the Lopes sign. In the area outside of the park, there is enough area where we have put cars in parking, where we rope it off where they're not like near the basketball courts or in that area where the parking
On the right
is.
side over.
It's, right, correct.
On top of the baseball field?
Yes, I actually parked, well,
Yes.
it's what such baseball field as there is.
Yeah.
Right.
No organized people use it. I saw a father and son and a couple of kids down there.
Actually,
Families use it.
the girls
Park.
softball is in the process of bringing the
But
field
the cars
back.
are parked there is my point, which is, that's where I actually was directed to park for the triathlon last week, so, and they were, you know, filling up nicely at the time. And I know that we didn't charge them for the use of it.
Are there any other choices of where to park them than that field, Heinz and Lopes? That day especially?
This is for this season, so it's just, it is what it is. It's Heinz and Lopes, that's what you've used before, and that's what you gotta use this time.
I'm going to call for a vote, please.
Okay, I'll make the
Make
motion
motion.
first off. Let me make a motion, okay? I motion that we allow the use of Heinz and Lopes Field, as well as the Band Shell, the Bluffs, Union Ave, Woburn Ave from Center Place to parking, to the parking lots, Heinz and Lopes Field, okay? And that we allow that for no fee for this year.
Second.
Question.
Go ahead, Mr. Holmes.
What about the school where we put the vendor vehicles? Is that on this list?
No, because normally I thought we'd negotiate with the Boys and Girls Club.
Boys and Girls Club don't own that property. It's town-owned property.
Then that needs to be put on here too.
It
then.
needs to come through here. The Boys and Girls Club has no ownership of that land.
Not anymore. That was
Okay.
It was school, it's no longer school.
In that area, that's basically where we put our vendors.
So let
Right,
me ask,
Right, because
let
I
me
know
add,
last year we approved that for
Yeah,
you to put those up there.
let me add the school parking, school area as well.
You
Please.
can't, it's not on the application. It's not before us.
I just added it. I added Heinz and Lopes, and I just added that.
Just
We
take
can
the-
do anything we
Take
want.
back the second and amend your motion, Patrick, that's all.
I just amended it. You want to re-second it?
Resecond.
There you go.
Fine.
Any discussion?
Right.
None heard. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
Aye.
If
Four,
you're gonna charge for anybody else.
401. 410, sorry.
We don't need
Thank
the
you.
revenue.
Thank you.
Okay. Next is Chock Full of Fun, Street Painting Festival, August the 16th, between 9 and 6 p.m. And they're asking for the Onset Band Shell and the Bluff, and to close a portion of Union Ave as well.
Eleanor, go ahead and explain the event.
Hi, Eleanor Martin, Onset Bay Association.
And Millie Burrows, committee member.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Go ahead.
Well, we have been before the board before. We have presented exactly what this event is. And we were told you had some new questions for us.
I think the question was whether this had to be brought before the selectmen as it included streets and such, and that was
That was
the,
why.
right.
Yeah,
It's just
And-
because of the street closure.
right.
Okay.
And Eleanor, please don't kill me for losing that one spot, okay? I thought,
Go ahead.
Closure. So, Eleanor, what street, where is this gonna close from?
Well, we've met with the police and they said that it would be okay to close from the section of Union Ave that comes from Onset Ave up to the, what's the street? Watman?
Waban.
Waban.
From Onset Ave to Waban.
So it's just that little section
rise.
from where
Right
the
by the
pier
wa-
view is up
Yeah.
to past Taradine's,
It's only that one piece of the street?
that one
Yes.
piece.
So what are they gonna do, try to run both ways on the other side, or how they gonna, do you know how they're gonna do that?
How they gonna do what?
So you'll still be able to come in from Buzzards Bay all the way through Onset, right?
Right,
And you can take that right and go up towards Gwenna's. And it's just gonna be that little piece
that one
between
section.
Stevie and Gwenna that's gonna
Yep.
be closed.
Yeah,
So the traffic coming towards the beach has to go somewhere else.
It goes
Right.
around,
Yeah,
yeah.
they can go around the parking lot, actually, and
Right.
come out
Yeah,
by
cuts
the
and
And come
fire
out by
station.
the market,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or
right.
down that way.
Yeah.
Right.
too.
or go around, like Mrs. Bessie's and go that way,
Come out by the Stonebridge.
right? You can
Right,
come
yeah.
up around by Stonebridge, right?
up by the
Okay.
park.
Yeah,
Yeah, they
'cause
can
a
go
couple
up and
weeks ago
around and
there-
go
there
into
was-
the Temple parking lot, or they could go straight and go to the pier.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think it was 2 weeks ago, there was something we closed that far, and it was ridiculous. You get to the bistro, coming this way, towards Onset, and then you could go a little further, and then you had to, it was like, oh, you can't go anymore.
Oh.
And you couldn't go out Main, you know, usually you can go out over the dummy bridge that way, but they let you come a little further than that, so you were stuck. You know what I mean?
I don't-
So, yeah, you got all the way down, no, actually, they closed that off. When you got to the bridge, you had to turn around and go back. I don't know if it was an emergency or something, but it was
Yeah.
pretty crazy. Yeah, no, that's cool. How many people do you think are going to come to this?
Well, we're hoping
Are you
tons and-
selling, you're selling tickets or?
20,000
No,
maybe?
we're not selling tickets. We're asking the artists to pay $5 to register to do
Right.
the chalk painting. And we are getting applications in now. We haven't had our deadline yet, so it's hard to estimate how many will come. But it's the same day as Illumination Night, so we're promoting it as, come participate in the festival, have lunch and onset, and stay for Illumination Night. So we hope it'll bring some extra business into
My birthday is the 17th, so I'll pay you $10 and draw a cake in the street, and you can sing to me when I come by and give you the money. How's that? Is that all right?
You got it.
And I got a free birthday party for $10.
All right, and you have that written on your calendar, right? You're going to come and see that cake.
August
Okay.
17th, I have it in, so I know the day before I'm going to get sung to by you for $10.
I move.
Oh,
Any
you'll
other
wish you
questions
didn't
by
get
anybody
sung
first?
by me.
Go ahead and ask for a
I'll
motion.
I move we give permission to the Chock Full of Fun Street Painting Festival, August 16, 2014, between 9 a.m. and 6 p.m. to use the onset band shell, the Bluffs, and close that portion of Union Ave.
Second.
Any other questions? None heard. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 500. Thank you, Eleanor. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next on my agenda here is advice to the town administrator. Boy, we give you a lot of advice.
Mr. Titlebaum.
Keep it up.
Mrs. Whiteside.
Am I going to have to say it again? Keep it down.
You've been hanging out in the street corner
Boy,
again.
he says that every time. You know, maybe we should leave this one off for a while. I mean, we seem to be, maybe put longer periods between that one.
I agree.
I mean, it seems like we give him advice as we need to anyway, and, make it specific seems like maybe that.
Mr. Holmes.
Start beating the drum again since this season is now over with. We're a seaside community, Mr. Sullivan, and I really think that we have to push parking. There's no two ways around it. Regardless of what people might think, we need revenue, and we need to get that revenue from every corner, every square of this town that we can. And revenue that we can get from visitors is a lot better than revenue we have to get from the residents. So, I saw the lines on my way here tonight. I think it looks great. I think that's a good first step. I remember seeing that in the pictures that night at the Bay Point meeting with them. So, I'm going to start beating the drum again, and hopefully we can really put together a program that covers 100% of Wareham, our beaches, streets, whatever we need to do to raise revenue, because we do need the revenue. And kudos, it wouldn't be right to do that without saying kudos on that Powers and Sullivan thing. You've done a wonderful job there. Keep up the good work. And when anybody wants to question why I, for one, voted for your pay, it was to be able to sit here and listen to that management company tell us how you've reorganized finance and how you've put most of the ducks. I mean, you're not done yet, so don't get such a smile you can't get out the door, because you still got work to do. But I think that some of that justifies that money that we're spending in that finance area, and it can start to give people confidence. I don't think it's going to give them 100% confidence, but it'll start to give them confidence in our finance system in town, which we really need too, because basically a couple of years ago that was at zero. So keep up the good work. Thank you.
I'm getting the feeling from the board they'd like to push this off to maybe once every 2 or 3 months.
Yeah, once a month would be fine.
Well, we had agreed to do it just once. We used to have it every week on there, so we moved it to once. So
I suggest we just dump it.
Yeah, because, I think
Okay.
we tell him as we're going along.
Plus, we've got his whole town administrator's report to have Adam if we want, so, I
Right.
mean, that's
We
that's
got
carte
plenty of
blanche, open
time to go
season,
at
so
it.
I don't see why we need to
We get plenty of
put it
time
down
to jump
here.
on his butt.
We can pull that off. I just want to make one comment that nobody really sees what goes on, but on a not even an hourly basis, but every 10 or 15 minutes, Mr. Sullivan gets either a call or a complaint, whether it's employee, resident, or whatever, and he's in the unenviable position of having to say no. It's easy to say yes, make everybody happy. It's something else to be able to say no and be able to stick to it, because it's not easy to say no. The easiest way is just to cave in, and I just don't know how he does it on a constant basis. We did. We just did it basically. So I just want to give him credit, because he's holding the line, even though the selectmen sometimes don't follow through on their end. Thank
All
you.
right, I'm going to change this then. I'm going to put accolades for the town administrator instead of advice. How's that? Is that better? And then you can have that weekly.
You wouldn't mind if it was after every
We
item.
can do that weekly. All right, next on the list is the parking study. Come on down, Mr. Buckminster. You can. Yeah, absolutely. Other side probably, yeah.
Mr. Buckminster, thank you for coming tonight.
Would you like to start?
If you look, this is we brought before the selectmen, I believe there was only 3 members at the time, what was an on-set parking program. We'd received some input, and we brought it back and started working on it. I know that Mr. Buckminster's put a lot of effort into this, and if you look, you'll see some additional spaces over on East Boulevard and such that have been included in there. And realistically, as we were speaking before, it's not just to redirect those, if you will, the visitors to some of the parking areas. It's also that every year we receive so many complaints that people cannot park in front of their own homes. And this is one of the thought process, how to give our residents back something, how to let them be able to park in their homes, and trying to figure out how we make this work with our limited funds. When it came up with it, it was to use what we currently have as the beach and dump sticker, and that is one of the ways. We already have those stickers. We don't have to order anything else. It now gives an additional application of being able to park on those streets, and that would be for on-set residents. I'm sure Mr. Buckminster has it more outlined, but really that is a lot of the thoughts behind this. And again, you'll see there's some areas where you have time limit free, no parking, and then the residential, it also includes the 3 areas we now have kiosks. I'd welcome, I don't know, Mr. Buckminster, if you want to go over anything else on there.
Pretty much that sums it up. Obviously, I'm sorry we can't, the no parking is actually brown, and the time limit free area is red. I left the center of Onset, obviously, because of the post office and people going into shops, and there's not a lot of time spent in there, so I think keeping that as is not going to hinder the program at all. Well, I can... Would you like... some of the areas I did outline the trailer park. Obviously, it has a, when you turn into it, it was identified as obviously an area that residential street parking doesn't tie into. However, there is a lot that as soon as you enter into the park, there is a portion of property which is owned by the town, which could probably handle 15, 20 cars. We were looking at that as a permit parking. The areas listed in blue, with the exception of Heinz Field, would be a permit parking where we were looking at residents, non-residents, employee parking, things like that. And I'm trying to see what else we have changed here. Pretty much everything else is the same from when we did the green section, which is the residential area. It was brought to our attention that we'd like to see what it would look like for the remainder of the town. So we did identify the remainder of the residential areas within the core of Onset. Pretty much at that point, I think we just have to run through the permits and things of that nature and questions.
I just have one question, Mr. Buckminster. Mr. Sullivan indicated that the residential, the sticker that everybody buys, but how, I don't live in Onset, but I can go park there because I have the dump sticker.
We would identify it by, with the current stickers, we could either mark it by, we used to actually have stickers that had the Little Harbor Beach
Right.
on it, and we would cut that corner off. So we can do the same identifying mark, whether it be a punch in the sticker, something like that, where we can make the identification on this year's stickers, because we already have probably 8,000 stickers. So we can make it from that point, and then obviously when we do next year's stickers, because we changed the sticker this year because we had people altering the stickers, so we went to a sticker that can't be scanned, copied, things like that. So next year when I do the order for the stickers, we would tie in the residential area if that's what the board would like.
Okay, so what you're suggesting is that the people who live in the, what I would call the greeny areas,
Yep.
They would have it punched a hole in it or something.
Correct.
Okay.
And it's through registry. I mean, we check registrations. We go through, and if they fall within the areas that are defined in the plan that we have, we would just obviously identify that on the sticker through whether we notch a corner, whether we put it in there, or we have a special punch that we just cut through it. So.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Titlebaum?
I assume that for those people who've already obtained their beach and dump stickers, that they would be able to get replacements that would indicate the special onset parking status.
I mean, we've sold a lot of stickers so far. So I mean,
that's what I'm getting at. How are you going
we're looking at to the tune of probably 45 to 5,000 stickers already. So, at this point, I mean, like we've talked about, it's a work in progress. We're gonna have a couple stumbling blocks here, and we're gonna fine tune it as we go. So, and I'm not saying that we didn't come into this not knowing, but I mean, obviously I'd like to utilize what we have, and if we've missed a few this year, next year we'll finally have everything in place to identify the sticker issue too. So I don't want to issue out 2,000 free stickers replacement, because I'm still going to have to go into that ordering mode, and I don't think it's going to be that demanding on the sticker end of it.
Okay, I guess my concern in that regard would be if we're just going by the existing sticker. I mean, I could go down there and park in front of someone's house, and I don't live in Onset, so that's
Correct.
That's the one issue I would point to. I think in the area you're talking about, if I remember my decree maps correctly, I think the original area under the Onset Bay Grove Association development was 792 house lots, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, I mean, let's face it too, some people dispose of trash by other means, don't have beach stickers. You're probably talking a few hundred as opposed to
Probably, but I
thousands
mean,
down there.
word of mouth getting out and notification and things of that nature, stating that if we do identify that you're not a resident of that area, you're subject to a citation under the parking ticket regulations. So.
Mr. Tropiano?
All right, okay. Can you tell me a little bit about that big blue area?
That's I just marked out Heinz Field.
Okay, so that's the free area, the
That's
Heinz
the,
Field
free area.
right? That we're talking about for tourism and all that.
One of the things that we were looking at is actually our neighboring community, Plymouth. They have a very aggressive parking program. We looked at a few different towns, and like Mr. Holmes was stating, that the Niles-Nygaard plan was used also, and we tried to, we put pieces into it, and I mean, there were some things that we changed a little bit of, but we used some of the stuff. But Plymouth, the center of Plymouth, they offer 5 locations which have free parking, so you can actually come in, you can park through the centers. They've got a few lots that are paid, and then they have some stuff that's more on the outskirts, and I put that in, obviously, as one of the locations at the time under the plan that you have as a satellite location for not charged parking. And it was pretty much because of the program there. We're looking at a neighboring community which actually they had a lot of bugs in. They worked through a couple of years with, and it's ironed itself out pretty much. They have a couple little glitches still, and it's a massive program, but it did offer some free locations. So I wanted to just make sure that was identified in there.
Okay. My next question is, how much is it if you get a ticket?
$30.
Okay, so
and that was
$30.
increased. I believe the board. I'm not sure who increased the parking tickets, but it was increased a couple of years ago.
Okay, so my problem is this. I drive here. I come from someplace else. I pull into one of the parking spaces. I get my $30 ticket. So basically, I got a $30 ticket to park for the day.
Correct.
We got to have signs that say towed.
Sure.
And we have to tow them out of there, because that's the only way that this is actually going to work. Because otherwise, the spaces will get filled up. And $30 to park for the day, most people would consider that to be fairly cheap. I don't know if you've been to Boston lately, but I mean, that would be like, okay, I'll pay you the $30, and I can park wherever I want, right? But if we put up signs that say you don't have a residential sticker, you're going to get towed. You're gone. Then, and we do tow them, then that's going to change, because people will get the message, and then they won't park there, and then there'll be the spaces for the residents. Because I'm really my concern is the residents. Frankly, I don't care about anybody else. I'm sorry, but I guess I'm one-way focused as far as that's concerned. We have plenty of parking in the kiosk areas, and now we have the free area for this year, and everything for everybody else to park.
I know I could say from experience on this one, as early as about 1:30 this afternoon. With the parking citations, that they do tend to get a majority of the people's attention, because when I was going through the parking lot, I had some people come after me after I did the parking lots today, and some of them weren't very happy with the outcome of receiving a citation.
Well, to be honest
but
with you,
majority of the cars had paid. So
okay, I get that, because I've watched that show Parking Wars, where the ladies out there throwing out these parking tickets, and of course everybody gets mad if they get a parking ticket. But that doesn't mean they're going to move.
No, that's the
and
risk
I see
of it,
plenty of
unfortunately.
tickets on the cars, and the car's not moved. And if the cars don't move, then we still have no spaces.
Yep.
So I mean, that's my opinion anyway.
I think wording on the sign is key. I mean, that's something that you have to approve and address.
Yeah, signage will be one of the more important parts of the implementation, and
we have to be very aggressive if you want this to work.
Mr. Holmes?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a little further explanation. I happen to agree with Patrick. $30 is nothing. It's not punitive, and it doesn't detract somebody from parking there. What gets their attention is when their car's on a flatbed, and they have to pay $86 to get it out of a locked yard, plus pay you the $30. That's what gets the attention.
It does.
I know several millionaires who live in Florida today from having just tow truck companies in Falmouth. So.
We might need somebody else on the tow list.
But at $30, you definitely need to look at that. Now, I have a question here on this color code. It's kind of hard for me to tell, but the brown, right? It says here, no parking.
Can I come up just see what you're pointing at?
Yeah, brown on the map.
There's only one little piece, I think.
Right here.
Correct.
Well,
That's not changed, actually. That's
No
existing.
parking now.
well,
The,
I was one of the two who weren't here. So, there's not a
Sorry
trailer
about
park there. There are people who live here. So, the people in these streets, this is the trail park. So, the people who live along these streets, Wabin Ave, in this 11th Street, who park in front of their house now in the street, are not going to be allowed to park there in the future?
There's currently signage in place saying there's no parking.
There's a sign up by Mrs. Bessie's that says no parking here to corner. If you come down, you come by the boat ramp.
Yep.
Go by the pump station.
Correct.
Get to the corner. Take a left where all those little cottages are. Right? As you're coming up the hill, you have houses on both sides of the street there. They do park in front of their house.
Why would there be no parking in that? in
I
that
don't
area?
know. It says it on this map. Pat.
No, but
It's
it's
current-
it is currently no
Yeah.
parking.
What
No,
would
there
be
is
the-
parking there.
But what would be the purpose?
That's why I'm asking.
So they have
Some of these-
driveways. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's just overflow, that they're parking there?
I don't know. That's why I'm asking the
Yeah,
question.
I mean,
Because that doesn't make any sense to, with people park in front of their house, and now we're gonna have a new plan that says you can't park in front of your house. There is a sign as you get up to
I mean,
Mrs. Bessie's on the right, it says no parking.
I'll drive again and look at, I mean,
Yeah.
if that's something they want to, no problem addressing
Yeah,
it.
because
Just,
there's no parking between her drive or just past her yard there and the dive shop. That end of that street has no parking here to corner, but there is parking on that road. Anyway, so that's number one. Number two, on this green area here, which is most of it, this is called residential, right? Now, are we saying that all the people in green who live along the green route have to go buy a sticker to park on the street?
correct,
Everybody.
correct.
We won't charge out-of-towners, but we're going to charge our residents. And here's the other thing. You
Well, the
stated
out-of-towners are being charged, through
Well, we
the
just
kiosk
gave away,
setups
we just
and
gave away
their,
parking lots full of out-of-towners
Yeah, I don't think
for
that's
free,
part
and
of
I'm
the-
getting to the other freebies.
Yeah, that's
in a
not
minute.
part of the parking program, speaking
So,
about
okay.
what happened
The
previously.
green is,
Yeah.
the green is not part of the parking program?
No, I'm saying what the reference just was
Oh,
part
yeah, I
to
got
pre-
that part. So all these people in green have to go get a sticker for how much?
it's $30 for under 65, and it's $15 for 65 and
So they're
above.
going to pay $30 a year, and for the $30, they're going to get a right to park in front of their house. They're going to be able to go to the dump. They're going to be able to go to the beach. And they're basically going to be able to park anywhere in Onset, not in front of their house. Anywhere. They can park anywhere they want. Now, the same guy who lives in Wareham, because as much as I do joke that sometimes Onset would be better off, we are Wareham. We charge a tax bill to all of Wareham. When people look for extra money, they go to everybody in Wareham. And now, when it comes to parking, because there are people who like to come to Onset to park, who are residents, who pay for that road, who pay for the plowing, well, maybe, and who pay for all these town services. And originally the idea was that if I lived in Wareham and I bought my $30 sticker,
Mhm.
then I could park in Wareham. And that's not the case here.
I know that we're one of the
If you
discussions
had a
that we
resident,
had.
well, really, I'm not really asking Mr. Sullivan at this point.
So
That,
part of the
that
pro-
idea is not on the table any longer, Derek, through you, Mr. Chairman?
I would say no, because what we're trying to do is make sure that the people that live there are able to park in front of their homes.
And if I have Mr. You again, Mr. Chairman, if I have a guest come to my home, do I have to get them a $30 sticker? Or I can't get them a $30 sticker?
No, we do have, as part of the program which was given to you, they do have guest passes.
Yeah. How much does that cost?
A visitor pass is for no more than 24 hours, and it would be a free pass. They could come down and they just have to pre-plan to they're gonna have some people that can come get it. We were talking about offering at the Onset Pier where we already sell stickers, as well as the town hall. And there's a guest pass, which is an excessive excuse me. The visitor pass is for an excess of 24 hours. A guest pass is less than 24. I'm sorry about that. The visitor pass would be $5, and it's good for up to 2 weeks. So if you have a summer rental or something like that,
And obviously,
property owner could-
if I have multiple vehicles, I'm paying $30 per vehicle per resident?
Yeah, it's going to be if you don't have a driveway on there and you have 3 vehicles, you would be paying for, you would have to have each vehicle registered for this. If you have a driveway and you can fit, you only have 1 vehicle and you can fit it in there, you're not paying anything.
If people start building driveways, I'm assuming that inspectional services is going to go out and measure these driveways to make sure that they're legal? Because you know what they're going to do, just like we have now.
Yeah, we have the curb cuts. It's sort
Right.
of.
So I'm not
we'll see a
I'm not too
revert.
keen on that and letting the out-of-towners slide.
But-
And the last question, because I'll keep it short, Mr. Chairman, is the blue lines. The blue lines say residential and non-residential, right? And then I thought I heard somebody say the blue lines were free.
The blue square for Heinz Field is listed as the free lot. The gentleman that, I apologize. Oh, you can write on that one. Sorry.
So the blue lot.
The blue lot is, currently is Heinz. The blue lines would be permitted parking. We have a lot of boat owners, we have a lot of non-residents, we have businesses we're trying to fit spaces for.
And they would
for their
pay for
employees.
that. That's not
They would
free.
all have to pay for that, correct.
So all the boats and trailers and all that park up alongside of Union Ave, those people are going to stop paying now.
Yes, sir.
Now, so that begs the question, how are you going to section that off? You got long trailers, small trailers, short trailers? What are you going to do? Are you going to put lines, some kind of a...
If you're gonna do it into boat trailers, we'll just do them in generalized lengths. A lot of our lots are only X amount in length for boats like Tempest Knob, things of that nature. So we just work with what's
Gary, I'm
basically
talking
a
about Union
comfortable
Avenue.
designation for a trailer.
Talking about Union Avenue here.
All right, that's not listed in the northerly part of it.
Right here.
Yep, up at the top. Yep.
As you head downtown, you go by the boat ramp, there's always long boat, shop boats, trailers all parked in here.
Correct.
You know, they kind of hug in here sometimes. Are those people parking there for free?
No, it would be required to have it would have to have a permit on the vehicle to park there.
And how do we determine the size of the parking space?
Average boat size trailer, and you get a.
Mr. Buckminster had asked.
14 footer or
Yeah,
15
Mr. Buckminster had asked about striping it. I said that we should not stripe it at this time because you could have a large pickup with a giant trailer and
Right.
vice versa.
Yeah, they're all different sizes.
Right now, they park there. There are no lines, and they park there for free currently.
And on the backside, we do the same thing?
Yes.
On the other
Yep.
side, when you come around. And how do they pay?
It would be the same. It would be a sticker.
So if somebody is coming into town and they want to park their boat there, they got to go down and get a $5 sticker? Or
It would be non-resident stickers 50 and or one of the resident stickers.
50 for non?
Yes.
And 30 for the regular?
Correct.
But
Yeah, or
then-
15 for the senior, 65 and
Now,
over.
obviously, if a guy's an onset resident, he could go there and park his boat with his onset sticker, and you're not going to charge him for the trailer, right?
Correct, because he's buying the
He doesn't have
generalized
to
sticker.
pay, or she doesn't have to pay. But anybody else coming from Wareham into onset has to pay. Right?
Well, they're paying anyway because they got to buy the
Anybody
sticker.
who lives in Wareham comes to onset, they have to pay one way or another, either through a kiosk, or if they're in Heinz Field at an event for free.
The
or-
10th Street and the proposed Highland, which is the L shape, the top of the line going north. That area is actually large enough to do angled parking, and you probably gain equivalent spaces to the 10th Street angle parking by going angled because that road is so wide. Plus, that would give you could do some handicap parking down towards the Boys and Girls Club and on the top. So you can kind of gain a couple extras there, and that's considered. It's only residential, non-residential listed here, but it should be called permit parking. So if you have a permit that you purchase from the town, resident, non-resident, business permit, you could fit yourself in that line.
In a blue space.
Yes, sir, in the blue line.
That's sad.
I have two.
Thank you.
Oh, okay. You haven't talked yet. Go ahead.
I took a road trip with Mr. Buckminster and went through many of the streets here. My observation is that most of the homes in the green spaces already have curb cuts. They have chosen to make a lawn or, put a gate up in front of it or something. So if people wanted to park off-street, all they have to do is undo, because the curb cuts are already there, honestly. The one that goes up the hill, Union? The one that's 2 lanes.
Trying to think. Yes, Highland. Is it Highland?
Most of what he's talking about made absolutely perfect sense. There were some boats parked on that road that you were indicating, Mr. Holmes.
All right, coming in.
Yep.
Over the Dummy Bridge.
Yep.
Yep.
Union.
Split.
And what is apparent is that people are using that boat ramp from, I don't know where they're coming from, but, yeah, exactly. And we are getting nothing. The residents, however, are not able to park in front of their homes unless they, go back to using their curb cuts and pulling their car or cars into their yards.
What I fear, Mr. Chairman, if I might.
Go ahead.
Just embellish on Mrs. Whiteside's comment. What I fear, Judy, is just that there's a big difference between, if you go up by from me, right, over the bridge, turn at Stone Bridge, you go up around the bend, right? Those people don't have driveways. They have curb cuts, like you're saying. They take a piece of land, they take the grass out, and they throw stone down. No parking driveway. It's not a driveway. So if you get everybody there who does that, right, except for a few who can't, because some of those houses don't have enough land to do that, you could end up with all these people parking on there for free, no permit. You don't need one if it's on a curb cut or a driveway. And then you have people who paid the $30 and there's no place to park because they've taken up the whole street. Because one of them curb cuts is a lot wider than a driveway. You know what I'm saying? If you're going to take a car, what is the rule? If you take a driveway and your house is here, a driveway goes alongside your house, right? So it's not as wide, maybe it's 6 feet or 8 feet. If you do that in front of your house for 2 cars, that's what you end up with.
Right, but
Going this way.
I agree with that.
So you're taking more room by doing these cuts. If everybody
No,
does a cut,
everybody has curb cuts. They already have curb
No, they
cuts.
do not.
Yes, they do.
I live there.
Sir,
They
I
do
was
not.
in the car with Mr. Buckminster, and virtually every single one of the ones,
Not all of them,
virtually every single one of them has a curb cut.
but not all.
Question for
Some
Mr.
of them don't have room to put one.
I have a question for Mr. Buckminster and Mr. Sullivan. If someone has a curb cut, technically you can't park in front of it.
You wouldn't be allowed to. It's considered an entrance to a driveway.
So that space doesn't matter anyways. If people are parking in front of it, technically it's not legal.
It's what?
It's not a legal place to park. If you
Yeah, but they
park in
do-
front,
It's not illegal?
no,
or not
if
legal?
you park in front of a curb cut,
Right,
because that's a driveway technically, you can't park in
there's
front
no
of it.
curb.
There's no
There
curb.
is a,
I understand what he's saying.
I
What
live
it is
there. There's
where the
no
lawn is going
curb
right
on
up to the
that
main paved
street.
road and there's no sidewalk in place.
Jesus.
I think
It's flat, the road is flat to the grass, there's no curb. People just took a square and put stone down, and you're saying that's a curb cut. It's not a curb
no,
cut.
I'm telling you that there are in fact curb cuts where the curb ends and
when you
there
go,
is-
There's no curb, it's hard to understand.
I
But
think
anyway,
this-
regardless of the point is, if you take 16 feet in front of your house as opposed to putting an 8-foot driveway inside, that takes up a lot of street.
Mhm.
Does it not?
Yes, it does. Mr. Tettelbaum?
with regard to curb cuts and driveways and all this other stuff, first off, before we go worrying too much about people parking in their yards, understand that the cost of modifying your premises to accommodate motor vehicles is going to be a lot more than the $30 it costs for a sticker every year. So I don't think
One would think.
that's an enormous issue, unless you're really handy and you enjoy hauling stone back and forth from Lowe's and places like that. The other thing is when it comes to sealing over your yard, understand that we do have impervious surface requirements in the town, and depending on the size of your lot, the size of your house, and the size of other things that you may have on the property, you may not be able to do so. Typically, driveways are a permitted process. You've got to go, and if you hire a paver, he's got to go pull a permit to go do the paving work. And it is something that is enforced through the Inspectional Services Department. So those are just some things to consider here. Again, if there's an existing curb cut and it's a visible curb cut, you can't park in front of it because you're blocking somebody's driveway, as Selectman Slavin said. So.
But there's no driveway.
Mr.
How can you block
Tropiano?
a driveway if it's not there?
All right. I want two more things. The blue lines. Are there any residential homes on those blue house lines?
On the one that goes south to north, which is Highland, on the left-hand side of the road, there is housing. On the right-hand side is the tennis courts, playground for the Hammond School.
Okay, so that means that the parking on the left side should be residents only, just like all the
There
other
wouldn't
ones
be
in front of
any parking on the left-hand side. They could utilize the parking across the street.
Whatever.
Going to
And
the angle parking.
That means that blue spot, if there's houses on the street and residents there, then we shouldn't be allowing anybody to park there than residents, because why is it fair that the people in the green area get the restriction, but the people in the blue area don't? That's not fair.
That road is actually like twice the size, twice the width of the other roads, and it's able to carry the parking around the corner going towards the school.
If there's resident homes on the street, then it should be residential owned parking, period.
That's correct.
If there is no homes on the street, then I have no problem with there being blue places for non-residents. I have no problem with that. But if there's houses, there should be resident-only parking. And I don't care.
Whatever you'd like.
I want to modify that to make that. Now, secondly, I had somebody send me an email, you guys might have got it, about permitting fees and so on and so forth. And they mentioned Boston. And that Boston gives out residential permits for $0. It's true. They do.
The Niles Nygaard report
It's
actually had
absolutely
us listed for almost $300 for a parking permit.
Well, there's actually spaces in the downtown areas, but not the residential areas. But where their sections are all laid out and it says residential permit parking,
Yep.
those stickers are free to the residents. Absolutely free. They don't charge them a dime. And I get it, because what they're saying is, okay, you're paying the taxes and you're doing whatever. Why should we charge you more money to park here in front of your own house, basically? But
Yep.
those stickers are pretty serious, too. I want you to know. If you get caught in a residential parking, you don't just get a ticket, they tow your car.
Oh, it's serious, absolutely.
It's fairly serious. And what they do is they do it by hour, by time. So during the day, it's regular parking when the people are at work and what have you. It's regular parking and there's meters and so on. But at night, at a certain time, it switches over and it's residential permits only.
Summer.
Okay, most. Well, no, not only by hour. And I know because I work there. I've been working at Berkeley College, and that's exactly where that is. And that's a way that's laid out, and that's.
Some of them are hourly.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's after
if there's a
4.
time, if you go and look at the residential permit only thing and you look at the bottom, it actually has an hour time limit. Yeah, it does. Matter of fact, I parked there one day and I got my car keyed because I parked there. Brand new car, keyed down the side. Okay, but anyway, so they don't charge in Boston their residents to park. Now that's something I think we should think about, is giving them a separate sticker for residents, not a trash sticker, not a whatever sticker, but a separate sticker that allows them to park in those areas. Now, other than that, what's the cost of running the program, and do we need that money? I mean, sure, the town's going to take in more money, but at whose expense? At the residents' expense in one particular area of town. It's almost it's almost unfair that we target them for a fee, which is what Steve was saying, and he's right.
If you look at the original map that we had come through, though, we had it listed. This one actually,
No,
shouldn't
that's
have said
okay,
Phase
yeah.
1 right now, but the Phase 1 map showed everything south of Onset Avenue and within the immediate center of Temple Lot, Union Ave, Highland, in that area, and I believe down 10th going towards Heinz Field. We didn't go with anything else because we were trying to do it in phases. I mean, we've got complaints. Swiss Beach is out of control in summer too. I mean,
Yeah,
people,
and that's gonna have to be dealt with.
But this is something that, you know, we got to tackle. If we can get something in place now, it has to come in some phases here, and we have to look at these areas and see what the demand is, and start working towards Swiss Beach if that's a major need, and go and work our way through it here. But, you know, and something to that point, it's time to get like a parking task force at that point, where you can actually have some people address the bigger underlying issues of parking needs in the town, where they could go into these different areas.
You and I are totally on board that this has gone on long for many years, and we've discussed it a million times, and we haven't done anything to help anybody out. And I think something needs to be tried. I just don't know whether charging residents $30 to park in front of their house is the right way to go about it. I could see us giving them a separate sticker that's a resident sticker that says, okay, I have a resident sticker. Then we don't have any issues about cutting off corners on a thing. If they don't want to buy a beach sticker, they don't have to. If they don't want to go to the dump, they don't have to do that, you know, but they get to park where their houses are, where they live and breathe, where they pay their taxes, where they do whatever. I totally get that. Where they have their curb cuts, well, that's fine. If they happen to have some curb cuts and they want to reuse them, I don't have a problem with that either. But the point is that I'm not so sure. See, one of the things we've been doing, and I know we need money, and this would make a lot of money for the town, I'm sure. I mean, you know, you're going to throw an extra $30 at everybody, and, you know, they're going to have a guest pass, and they're going to be paying for that or whatever. And I'm not sure that I don't have a problem with the guest pass thing being paid for. I don't think I have a problem with non-residents paying. I don't think I have a problem with that. Okay? But I think I have a problem with residents paying. And like I said, in the blue areas, I think I would like to see, if there's houses on the street, the blue areas should be residents only. If there's none, and it's no problem. Call it non-residents.
We did mark it because we did drive down that road, and they do have active, decent-sized driveways in all those locations. And as you get further down, they have driveways that go around. I can't see the name of the street. I think it might be 11th off to the side there as well. So I mean, they do have off-street parking.
Well, but that doesn't matter because they would want their guests to park there. They want their other people to park there. And frankly, I know you are trying to save spaces for boaters and whatever. I get that whole thing. But I don't give a damn about the boaters.
But that isn't just the boaters. That's the employees that work for
those I care about.
But if you take that away,
Not the
we're not
residential.
going to have enough spots. I can guarantee you right
There's
now.
only
That
one-
was one of the
He just told
concessions
me
we
there
had
was
to
only
make.
one street, and that's Highland.
Highland is going to make all the difference, believe it or not. You'll see with 10th Street up there behind the Temple Street lot, and then Highland Avenue.
But if I live on Highland, why should I be restricted from parking in front of my house when everybody else gets special privileges to park in front of theirs?
They do, as we checked on they do have their driveways. We've looked at it where you can now increase and put side parking on there. I would ask that you take a look at that.
Okay.
And if we're not going to go ahead with
Everybody,
that
hold
part,
on,
I'm
please,
fine.
one at a time.
So.
I'll take a look at it, but I just have a problem with residents in one area being covered, or in another area not being covered. I think that's a discrepancy that you just got to be careful for.
And one of the
point made.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Nope. I think one of the things that we have to look at, though, is we're listing it as a permitted parking area, and that is pretty restrictive if you look at what we're trying to accomplish by putting people in the kiosk. Anybody can go park in a kiosk lot. Doesn't matter where you're from, you're parking there.
Exactly.
But, you know, we don't sell a lot of non-resident stickers as it is. I mean, we sell some for Swiss Beach, Swiss Neck, things of that nature, but it's not huge numbers. Our big number is residential stickers. And I think majority of the people that are going to still benefit from that parking are the residents there. We have in some businesses, and it's only for 2 months of the height
Well, the businesses I worry about too. I mean, obviously, we have to try
I
to
just,
give
I
them-
would
just
like
the
to be able to
voters.
sit there and identify it so we can blanket it
Well, I
and
mean, we gotta
cover
make sure
all
they
of
can
those.
survive. I mean, let's face it.
I have a basic thought here is that we wanted to find some way to give the residents the ability to park in front of their house or close by without having someone coming down, this original thought, parking because they don't want to use a pay lot and taking up spaces that belong to the residents. So this whole program should be geared to, one, providing parking for the people who live there and pay taxes here in town, et cetera. The next piece, of course, is providing for employee parking so businesses can have employees that can afford to work. Because if they have to go pay and everything else, doesn't work for some of them. The issue I find here is that the idea was to take that lower piece of Onset in particular where it's extreme congestion, there's really no room. The houses were designed probably for a Model T or a Model A Ford way back, you know, type of thing where there was no room. And people today have 2, 3, and 4 cars and families. And that whole area doesn't provide enough parking anyways, no matter what you do. You're always going to be short.
We're very limited in the location.
So my thought on all this is, when you put this through originally, when I looked at it, I thought it was a great idea. And as we go through it, it's like the old onion, we keep peeling back problems. The idea is, I think that maybe we can come up with something which everybody may not agree with, whatever, is finding some way to provide the residents with a sticker that they have themselves. Someone who's a non-resident or whatever would have to have something there, and we go to a tow program, and maybe that works out. The only problem you have is you have to go through all these areas and put down no parking, residents only signs, or else you can't do anything. And we don't have anything, as usual, we have nothing in place. So we can't just simply implement a program overnight there.
I would suggest, from what I'm hearing, is wait till next year then, because in all honesty, I have 5 different opinions right here. And this isn't chastising anyone, but there is a lot to this, and we're trying to figure it out. We're not trying to hurt residents or the businesses. The whole beginning of this was to help people. You'll see in front of their driveways, do not block driveway. You know, if you want to wait for another year, start the task force, have them look at it with more. I'm fine with this. The work that's been put in this today was to help the residents.
And see where it goes. I'm willing to make a motion and see where it goes.
Mr. Titlebaum, do you want to say anything else?
Yeah, a couple of things. First off, getting back to one of our original points of contention here, the parking fines and the fact that $30 may not be enough. If we're looking at the parking program, if we're looking at the cost of putting up signage to protect the residents, there's a way to shift that burden off of the residents, and that's to shift it onto the violators. Unfortunately, as I learned from council, after I wasted 10 minutes on my phone looking through the town bylaws only to find nothing, the road commissioners are the ones who now have the authority to set parking fines. I would hope that this board would agree to send a letter to the road commissioners asking them to jack up, if we do implement this season, asking them to increase that fine to $100. If you do that, then you're putting the burden on the violators. You can then make a better case for providing a free sticker to the residents because you've shifted the burden of the cost of the signage onto the people who are going to be violating the signs in the first place. I think that's a better deal for the residents. I mean, you'd have to sit down and figure out the math to all that, but I'm guessing that you'd probably be in better shape and the town would be out a lot less money when it came to purchasing the signs that, again, are designed to protect the residents in the first place. Secondly, now I forget what my second point is.
Mr. Sullivan, you had one more point?
The only problem with that shifting it to the violators is those funds go into the general fund, which then just gets swept out to free cash or our earnings. We cannot allocate it to that.
You have to wait. You have
You
to
have to
basically
wait
wait
a
a
Well, we
year.
could set up a revolving fund next.
Yeah, you'd have to set up. And how's the DOR
My
feel?
favorite thing, yeah. Our favorite thing are revolving funds.
Can I
Okay,
just say-
look, I want to
sorry.
get a shot at this. This is
ahead,
what I
Mr.
want to do.
Tropiano.
This is my opinion. All right, I'm gonna go along with your Highland thing because there's only a couple of houses and it looks like they have driveways, so I'm gonna let that go. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna say I move that we adopt the parking program as follows: that there be residential stickers at no charge, that visitors' passes be charged a fee based on the program, and that non-residents pay a fee as according to the program, and that tow signs be posted so that we can use the money from the towing to help pay for a lot of this program. I mean, if you're going to violate, you might as well help us pay for the system. So in other words, the towing signage that says tow, that your vehicle be towed if you violate the residential areas or whatever, is something that we implement. And that's what I like to see, and we'll adopt it exactly as it sits right there.
I'll second it.
No.
Yeah, and I have a question.
It's not a public hearing, sir, I'm sorry.
Before we start, Mr. Bones, could you please give us whether we are on legal or shaky ground?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. No, you're not on shaky ground, but I'd just make the point that the charter at section 39B assigned a lot of these regulatory duties to the road commissioners. And so, and the town administrator can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the idea was to get a system and plan in place that would be acceptable to the chief executive board of the town on such an important issue before the proposal was sent to the road commissioners. So if you were to adopt a motion along the lines of Selectman Tropiano's proposal, you might want to rephrase it a little bit as, you know, I move to recommend that the road commissioners adopt, and then the language of Patrick's motion.
So moved.
And then
Second.
And then, if I may, then to address the gentleman's comment, since you're not technically the ones who would be setting the fines, setting the towing policy, and actually making the final vote as to how this would work, the road commissioners would have their meeting, and since they're the ones who would be the ones who would take a binding vote, you know, that would be the occasion where the gentleman or other
Public
people
would
who
have
wanted
input
to
They'd have public input on
yeah,
everything.
exactly, exactly. You know, you're shaping the proposal for their consideration, and whether they accept that by charter, that's their decision.
Well, I think we can make a strong recommendation.
I have a motion, I have a second. Any other
And I was on the question.
Go ahead, Mr. Holmes.
So, through you then to Mr. Bowen, so what is the board actually voting on?
Send a proposal to the road commissioners.
To
So the
send
board
a-
is not approving this plan, it's the road commissioners that will approve this plan? Is that what you just said?
Yeah, yes, I think that's right. It's the road commissioners who have the authority under the charter to actually implement this plan. If the board votes in favor of Selectman Tropiano's motion, what you would be doing would be sending a proposal that has the input of the board and the recommendation of the board to the road commissioners, saying, road commissioners, this is what we want to see you adopt. If they can adopt it, or they can do something different.
Okay, then that lends even a stronger argument to Patrick's arguments before he did whatever he just did. You're treating residents different. And this board just let somebody get a free parking space because everybody was crying fairness. And this isn't fair. If I live on a street and I'm a resident, I get a special area marked in green. If I'm another resident, I have a street in front of my house, I'm in a blue area. That's not fair. 2, the pricing now is free, which is great. So I like that. And 3, the government, whether it's this Board of Selectmen or the street commissioners or the federal government, has no right to tell me that I must use my own land to park my car on.
You're not telling me.
Yes, you are. On those blue streets, you're treating me differently. And the response was, with all due respect, that house has a driveway. So it's okay to zone it different because I happen to have a driveway at my house.
We're talking 3 houses on one street, is
It
that
doesn't
correct?
matter, Patrick. Fair is fair to everybody. Everybody. You're making exceptions when passing law to treat people differently. And I'm sure there are lawyers down there who could argue both sides of that case. So I want to see everybody, I said this 4 weeks ago, I want to see the plan. I'm really was looking for revenue. I mean, that doesn't appear to be happening. So if we're not going to get all this revenue, At least let's make it fair to all the citizens.
I have a simple
We've-
answer. for
I've
that.
heard 6 times about, I care about our citizens, and yet we're going to treat people on certain streets different because they have a driveway. I'm
Yeah,
not being
Nope,
punitive.
and
I'm just stating the case that we're not passing this as a policy anyway. It's not our jurisdiction. So at least let's send something to somebody, our recommendation, to make it fair.
I appreciate
Sullivan?
that, and I think the simple answer will be Highland Ave. If you can currently park on both sides, we will not put angled parking on there to pick up the extra spots. We will simply on the right-hand side, which is on the Hammond School area, which has no residents on it, we will do a blue line on the left, which has residents, we'll keep
Yeah.
that as green,
Mr.
and that
Chairman-
has solved the problem.
Mr. Chairman, you don't have to do that. It's a very simple step. You figure out who those people are that Patrick identified who live there. Then you figure out how many spaces they use. And you put up a sign that says, here to here is just like a handicapped person. When you put up a handicap sign, you don't block off the whole street. You just park off the area
Mr.
where
Holmes,
the
that's-
handicap parking is. Is
Yeah.
that not, am I off base
No,
here?
we've made the entire left-hand side where the houses are resident parking. We've turned
So
that
you-
green.
So that's what you
and
do, not the whole both sides of the
No,
street.
the other side said was blue.
Right.
So
Yeah, that's fine.
we're on the same page.
As long as everybody's treated fairly
That works for me.
in all these neighborhoods, that's my concern.
I want to
And
add
that's
that
not
to my
what I heard.
motion. Okay?
Oh,
I'll
they're
add
going
that
to
to
have
my
fun with
second.
these minutes.
These are going to be fun minutes, yeah.
So the motion then is to authorize the chairman to send a letter to the road commissioners endorsing this?
Yeah, as town council stated.
Endorsing this, yes. Any other
Okay?
discussion?
Exactly as we discussed it, yeah.
I'll ask for a
With
vote.
no fee for
All
the
those-
residents.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? 500. Mr. Sullivan, I believe
that went
Mr.
easier than
Bichette
I
is
expected.
acting town planner.
He is the acting town planner. We'll try and get the road commissioners together on this.
Because I don't know if we've ever reappointed the chairman to the road commissioners after Mr. Charbonneau left. He was the chair.
Yeah.
So we have police chief and a few others, so I'm hoping we have a quorum for them.
I just want to say one thing. Gary, thank you. I know you've been beat up pretty good in this
No,
process.
it's all yours. Change
but
whatever you want.
Thank
Not a
you
problem.
for, hanging in there and,
No worries.
doing the thing here.
And I think I would suggest, just understand, we were hoping for really a July 1 to start the soft implementation of this with all the time. You're probably looking now, next year effectively.
Yes.
So.
For all intents
See
and
what happens.
purposes, yes.
I want to echo Selectman Tropiano's thanks to you.
No problem. Thank you.
Not too many harbor masters invest so much time in parking. We'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, thank you. I think.
All right, since you're here, why don't
Yes.
can we jump to the next item for him, and that's a discussion and approval with the harbor master funding through CPA program, East River Boat Ramp.
The reason Gary's here and it was rushed on is because if you're looking for any CPA program grants, you have to have your grant in by the 2nd or 3rd, I believe it is. So this is just simply a grant for partial funding of the East Boulevard Boat Ramp for onset. I believe, Gary, you have money already from other sources as well.
Just to back up what it was, when I first started here, I had the onset boat ramp engineered because of the problems that we were facing with the structural integrity of it. What I'm looking to do is replace the existing ramp. Nothing more, nothing less. No
Move
parking.
approval.
I'm sorry?
I'm moving approval.
Any discussion by the board? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 500.
Okay, Gary.
Okay.
That was easy.
Would you like some pictures?
Gary, thank you
All
very
right,
much.
have a nice night. Next is policy statement 02-8.
This was supposed to be mine. I managed to forget to bring my notes to deal with this, so with the chairman's indulgence, we pick this up at a later date.
Yep. Right, no problem, Mr. Chairman?
I'll schedule it with you.
All right.
No
next,
problem.
Thank you.
Next I have, let's see, I think that's it. I think we go to
We have focus
any
groups.
other town, the focus groups, yes. Sorry.
That's something that we,
Focus group study response.
yeah, there's any response from any of the board members on the focus group study?
Other than the fact that they want to do away with our town government, not much.
That's, of course. Any comment?
Be careful what you wish for.
Such a cynic down there. All right.
Okay.
We've got nothing to do with that. Next is, okay, ladies and gentlemen, any other town business not reasonably anticipated in the last 48 hours?
None.
Mr. Titlebaum. Ms. Whiteside? She says no. Mr. Holmes? Neither me. Okay, good. We're moving on. All right. Town administrators report. Kick it.
Thank you very much. The first thing I want to do is really thank the department heads and all the employees that have been working hard. I know there were some superlatives for myself tonight, but it is the staff and that are working hard and really making this town move forward. And obviously Gary, the harbor master, is one of the key elements, so I appreciate all his help. The other item that we have is I wanted to thank the OBA and Eleanor Martin and Escape the Cape, Mr. Tim Richmond. There was actually, nobody probably, maybe a few know, that they had not put, Escape the Cape had not put the band shell in on their permit, but the OBA had. And that night, those two worked together, and it was a great example of two people trying to get to the same goal and working together. So I appreciated all their help. Obviously, you can tell by being in here, the smell and the sight. They have started the roof project that was funded through community preservation funds on the multi-service center. Looks to be a great job. If you see the lines out there or going across any of the cars, please do not cross. That means you're in a danger zone. So obviously, our days have been taken up with a lot of parking and audits and such, but we also managed this Monday to have the economic development self-assessment tool with the help of Northeastern, Bridgewater State come down, and we had some great input from local, I guess, players, you would say, on there. I'm not going to list them off, but I appreciate all their help, and I'm interested to see what sort of information we get. They put a lot of time in on this, so again, it's very much appreciated, and it shows their care for the town. It's been a long night. I will stop now. Thank you.
Okay, liaison reports, Mr. Titlebaum.
Yeah, last week I went to a meeting, or what was supposed to be a meeting of community preservation. They didn't have a quorum. They did have a few people come before them with some business, but since they didn't have a quorum, all we did was listen. No action was taken.
Mr. Holmes. I have nothing. Mr. Slade.
I'll keep it short. I know everybody's tired. On the EdStat program, I just want to personally thank Bridgewater State University and AD Makepeace. Those two organizations paid for this program that we're getting. It wasn't just us asking. It was two individual groups actually paying for the program. Escape the Cape went off very well. Tim Richmond did a fantastic job. They probably run one of the best organizations I've ever seen run an event, and how clean it was run. The place was clean before they even had packed up. And the two old people that were complaining about directing traffic on Stillman was myself and Sandy, so we didn't kill anybody. The other piece we had is we had a business-to-business meeting last week on Thursday over at Bay Point. Tom Cahere was there, who's basically the regional transportation manager for Cape Cod. And there was discussion about, we had a bunch of banks and other businesses, and they were talking about the future of Wareham in particular, and the area itself and what we were looking at. And what was brought out was how important the commuter train is, for Wareham. And Mr. Cahere was pretty positive that we should be seeing something realistically within a couple of years. So we look forward to this happening, and it looks like we have a lot of support in the area as well. That's all I have tonight.
Okay. Next up is authorization to sign documents. I move approval of payment to the law office of Richard Bowen in the amount of $15,000. Rich, you can't vote on this. Aye. Okay, all set. You got the document right here. Who got it? You got it, right? There's the folder. Okay, next on. All right, next is appointments. We have Eugene Prisoner? How do you say that? Is she stay here? No. Okay. All right. I move we appoint Eugene Prisoner of 17 Atlantic Ave, Onset, Massachusetts, Council on Aging Board of Directors for a term to expire no later than June 30th, 2018.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? 400.
I move that we approve Corinne Baker of 9 Tower Terrace, Onset, Mass. to the Council on Aging Board of Directors for term to expire June 30th, 2018.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? 400.
Okay, that takes care of that one. Here, you can put those
Was that
in
the
there.
young lady that came up?
Yes,
Yeah,
that's,
got it.
Mrs. Baker came up
That was
earlier.
her.
All right, I'm sorry it took so long to get to her, and I appreciated her stepping up earlier. So
Yes, thank you.
I move that we approve Luther D. Howard III to the Bike Path Committee to a term to expire no later than June 30th, 2017.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? 400.
Okay, I move we approve Deborah Jean Rose, 10 Juniper Street, Wareham, to the Cemetery Commissioners to term to expire no later than June 30th, 2017.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? 400.
It's okay. I move we approve James B. Newman Jr. of 3 Terry Lane, West Wareham, to the Commission on Disabilities to a term to expire no later than June 30th, 2017.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain?
I
400.
move we approve Robert Brady, 18 Cypress Street, East Wareham, Massachusetts, Community and Economic Development Authority, to a term to expire no later than June 30th, 2017.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? 400.
I move we approve Sherby Worthen? Worthen, pretty good, not bad. 39 Green Gate Lane in Wareham to the Community Preservation Committee to a term to expire no later than June 30th, 2017.
All those in favor? Hello, guys.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? 400.
Yeah, Peter. All right, next I have the commitment for fourth quarter billing for Bourne. Yes, I don't have any paperwork for them, though. We already approved them
We
last
approved
week.
most of them. That's just one we had.
Okay. All right, so,
Actually, this should be under the 48-hour rule. I'm sorry, I missed that in my paperwork
all
here.
right, so we'll go back 48 hours. You
Yeah.
wanna read it then?
Yeah, this is basically from John Foster. We needed to get the billing out for Bourne. It actually came in Friday, but it missed the cutoff. So I'll make a motion to, basically for the board to commit a sewer usage fee to be collected from the town of Bourne for the period of April 1st, 2014 to June 30th, 2014, the amount of $80,156.92.
Second. Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 400.
Did we do the constable appointments?
We did them last week, and there's no other paperwork in there for them, so.
Okay, because we've got 2 additionals this week.
Did I see them?
No, I think you went over them. I think you skipped them.
Did I miss it?
I started to sign, then I
I
realized.
apologize.
We've done 'em,
I
so-
didn't see it. There is a couple in here. Look at
Yeah.
that.
Go
Okay,
ahead.
I move we approve Ian Daly, 59 Linden Street, Taunton, Massachusetts, to, can we even do that? Constable from out of town? Yeah?
Check the list.
Okay.
Come from all over.
All right, to a position of constable for the town of Wareham to term to expire no later than June 30th, 2015.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained?
I move
500.
We appoint Robert Schott, 2 Foundry Circle, West Wareham, to a position of constable for the town of Wareham to expire no later than June 30th, 2015.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 500.
Can you hand that back to me?
In the town.
Okay. All right.
Second.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 500. Good night, Wareham.
Good night, Wareham. Thank you for hanging in there.